it can give you a headache. I'm telling you, it's a tough little track.
You got to get to the front. There's only be one way to get there. Pushing and shoving.
There's a will, there's a way. Work conquers at the end of the day. The Lord helps those themselves. Hey, keep my head down. Gotta keep on fighting. Hey, I'll keep my head down.
NASCAR on Fox today broadcasts the 129th race in what is now the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series from the series' oldest track, Martinsville Speedway, founded 1947. First Cup race here in 1949, won by Red Byron. This race brought to you by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, fast finish. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. That's a look at the back straightaway and a fine crowd on hand here in South Central Virginia. At the half mile for today's race, they've had 2 weeks to think about what could happen here this afternoon. All right, let's have a look at the Geico starting grid for today's race. 7-time Martinsville winner Jimmie Johnson has the pole, and Marcus Ambrose with his second front row start here. Brian Vickers, third straight top 10 at Martinsville, and Joey Logano, runner-up here 3 years ago. Casey Kane finished third here in October. Jeff Gordon, 7 grandfather clocks in his collection. Brad Keselowski, top 10s in both races here last year, and Matt Kenseth, fourth here last April. Carl Edwards, 3 top 5s already this season. Ryan Newman, last year's winner. Kyle Busch, second best here last October, and Martin Truex, 5th in this race 1 year ago. Jamie Mack, former Martinsville runner-up with his teammate Juan Pablo Montoya, 3rd here in 07. Clint Boyer was quick in both practices yesterday, and Paul Menard, top 10 in 3 races this season. Dale Earnhardt Jr., top 10 finishes in 4 of the last 5 races here with Regan Smith. Kurt Busch and Ricky Stenhouse round out the top 20, Darrell.
Let's see if we can get Clint Boyer. Hey, Clint Boyer, CW, got a copy, buddy?
Okay, bud.
Clint, it got a little dicey here at the end of the race last year. Do you think about that at all today when you start this race?
No. I'm pretty ADD anyway, so I kind of forget what happened last week, let alone last year. We're here to win. Brian Patty and everybody in this RK Motors Toyota did a great job on unloading with a fast race car. I missed a little bit here in qualifying, but got to keep the fenders on it. Patience is the name of the game. You've been here, you won a lot of races here. Got to be patient. Got to get to lap 450 or so. All the fenders on it. If we do that with this race car, we'll have a shot at it.
Yeah, you were fast in practice, just didn't get that good qualifying lap. Is that track position going to, how are you going to handle that today?
I'm going to pass all these cars in front of me, hopefully.
I know you will, brother. Good luck, and have a great race. Thanks for talking.
How about it?
That's the goal. Clint Boyer rolls off 15. Let's get downstairs. Steve Burns.
Well, thanks, Mike. As you said, 7 wins for Jimmie Johnson here at Martinsville. I asked his crew chief, Chad Canals, with a new race car and a little bit of a new tire, is that going to affect how Jimmie races? He said, no, the characteristics that are unique to this place and unique to winning will never change. It's the car that can launch up off the corner, Matt Yoakum.
Steve, Kyle Busch has 109 wins over NASCAR's top 3 series, but not one here at Martinsville. Now, Dave Rogers told me there's a lot of guesstimation about what this racetrack will do. They have a plan A and a plan B, but he said, Matt, we've got over $17,000 worth of tires, 11 cents in our pits, and we plan on using them all today. Chris Devoda?
It's a very un-Tony Stewart-like 26th place starting position. Why? On Friday, the car was so bad, he said, I can't even drive it. But Steve Addington, the crew chief, told me this morning they have made gains on this car. It is much better than where they're starting. Keep your eye on Smoke. He could have some tricks up his sleeve. Jeff Hammond?
Well, Chris, Steve Burns had it right. Martinsville is unique. Whether you watch this race from your front yard or whether you're watching it from the start-finish line. And it also brings a very unique style of racing. We're talking about beating and banging. And the guy that I'm going to be watching happens to be Clint Boyer. He's looking for redemption after last year's finish. Mike?
Thank you, Jeff. What a perfect day for racing. Spring in Central Virginia. The temperature should hit 70. It's 80 on the asphalt and 92 in the concrete in the corners. A light breeze and sun. 500 laps, that's 1,000 left turns. 30 miles an hour you crawl down pit road. Fuel window, 125 laps. Engine change after final practice for Danica Patrick. She will drop from 32nd to 43rd. And here we go, Darrell.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go short track racing, boys.
They start with their tempers and fenders intact. Who will lead lap 1? Ambrose on the high side. Jimmy comes digging. Ambrose will lead the first lap in his Richard Petty Ford.
Well, you can tell the racetrack's pretty clean in that outside groove. We were having issues with that in practice, but right now that outside didn't look too bad. Marcus Ambrose was able to hold on there for a couple of laps.
Right now, Joey Logano in that 22 car, he's working on Brian Vickers in the 55. He's making the outside work.
That's for third place behind Johnson, the new leader, and Ambrose.
See, Larry, that's a good thing. If these guys will run out there like that, that rubber will stay pushed up out of the groove, and they'll be able to use two lanes around the turns.
Matt Kenseth outside of Jeff Gordon. Remember when these two got together at Bristol? That didn't end well, and we've only begun. 3 laps in at Martinsville Speedway, side by side for 6th.
And right now, if he doesn't find a hole to get in, he's going to fall back to about 25th, because that's about how long the line of cars are that's behind Jeff Gordon in the 24.
And Larry, every guy there, Keselowski, Carl, all of them know that, and they're not going to cut you any slack.
Brad Keselowski in the 2 takes advantage of Kenseth on the inside, and Carl Edwards, his bumper's nestled right up against Keselowski's Ford. He's not going to give Kenseth anywhere to hide on the inside.
Keep an eye on that 99 today. That car was bad fast in practice, and Carl told me last night, I've got a car that can win this race.
And Kenseth was able to slide down in front of Carl Edwards, so he finally finds a hole at the bottom of the racetrack.
Oh, teammates, I'll cut you some slack right now there, buddy.
Frank Biffle, Regan Smith battle. David Gilliland drops to the inside on Stremme. There's still a lot of 2x2. Tony Stewart on the inside.
I'm going to be anxious to see how Tony Stewart in the 14 runs today. He was the very first driver out in qualifying the other day, and the track had no grip whatsoever when he went out to make his qualifying run.
Yeah, and you heard Steve Burns say Addington said they made a lot of changes in the car. Thought it'd be a lot better than where they started. Another guy that I'll be interested to watch is back in the pack a little ways is Mark Martin, substituting for Denny Hamlin today in the 11 car. They've had a lot of issues with that car.
55 there, sitting third, and here is Mark Martin, who's in the 11 this week, but will move to that 55 after Martin's.
I asked Denny, I said, what's the problem? Why, you know, Denny's usually up front here at Martinsville, and Denny said, Mark's driving style is so different than mine. He's on the gas harder. He's on the brakes harder. He just does everything. Steering box, and he's not happy with very many things about the car.
And here is Denny Hamlin, his back in a brace from that crash at California, sidelined for an indefinite length of time, indeterminate length of time, not indefinite, until released by the doctors to get back behind the wheel, but he's at the track.
Well, we got
cheering him on.
Got some action there coming off turn 2 that time. David Stremme got into Gilliland there on the outside, made some contact, got cars sideways, but they saved them and continue on.
And this group of drivers right now, they're battling for 28, but what they know, they're less than a half a lap behind leader Jimmy Johnson.
30 car up on the curb. When you get up on that curb, even though it's softened up, you can see it's a lot softer than it used to be. They still make some pretty serious contact. That could cut that left rear tire down on the 38 car.
5th place, Casey Kane. Brad Keselowski. 6th, rather. Right behind Jeff Gordon and ahead of Matt Kenseth, number 20.
Well, one of the things that we were really concerned about with this tire and the way it was shedding rubber is if there would be 2 grooves today. Could you run on the outside? Could you make a pass on the high side? I thought when we started this race, it looked like it was going to maybe have a 2-groove track, but man, everybody fought for the bottom, and looks like they're trying to stay on the bottom right now.
Nobody wants to let Casey Kane in that 5 car down to the bottom of the racetrack. He's battling beside Kyle Busch in the 18 that we're riding with.
I think, Larry, with this tire, you better make all your passes pretty early on these tires, because we saw a lot of give up in the tires. We saw a lot of cars slipping and sliding after 20 or so laps on a set of tires. I think if you're going to pounce on somebody, you better do it early.
And number 1, that's Jamie McMurray, running for a great cause. Race for Insulin is on McMurray's car today. He gets inside Casey Kane. And the 93 has bounced off the wall. Travis Quapple. We continue under green. Here's a look at it.
Just get up off the corner. Car gets a little tail happy. That's a pretty hard lick. Got a car around Danica Patrick in turn 3 and 4.
Caution's out. Stay in front of the...
And she had passed about 8 cars, Darrell, after starting in the back due to an engine change. She'd been moving up through the field, working the low side of the racetrack. Didn't see what got her turned around.
Well, what I noticed in her practice and everything is that she kind of makes a late entry into the corner. She makes that road race entry where you stay out, get that late entry down in the turn, and you'll see her coming right here. She gets under Kenny Schrader right here, and Kenny just really pinches her down, and Danica spins the car out to stay off of Schrader.
Yeah, she was as low on the racetrack as she could go.
Well, let's maybe see where this got started.
You just see there, Schrader's not cutting her a whole lot of slack, and she's trying to get on the brakes hard to stay off of Kenny, and the back of the car just comes around. Kenny goes on, Danica goes around.
There we got a few takers on pit road. It started with Jamie McMurray in the 1, Casey Kane in the 5. Krista, Kane is in.
Yes, he is. They were basically deciding do what everyone else does, and then Casey said, I think I need tires. Kenny Francis, the crew chief, said, then let's get 4. Casey worried he hit the curb a little bit on that first run. Crew coming around, working on the left side. Matt?
All right, Truex is in. Almirola comes in for a pit stop. Mark Martin, Bobby Labonte, Jeff Burton, and many more. Jamie Mack. Bush and others.
I think this is one of those moves, Larry, where you say, I'm going to get tires now. The next time, maybe there'll be a caution before too long. I won't have to come back to pit road.
And those drivers that stayed out probably will have to come.
Varying strategies, 18 laps in at Martinsville Speedway in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. We'll go side by side with NASCAR on Fox. Welcome back to Martinsville Speedway in Virginia. Closing up the first caution on pit road. Not many cars on pit road, but not a lot of room once you get there, Larry.
It is tight quarters. The pit boxes are very small. You see Casey Kane, as he's pulling out of his pit box, almost gets into the side of Joe Nemechek in the 87, not to mention the crew members there on Regan Smith's 51. Here's Martin Truex Jr. And look at the congestion, and this was only with 9 or 10 drivers on pit road. So you can imagine we get about 25 or 30.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing almost a lot today, because those guys, I mean, with the pits and the turns the way they are, and then the real tight off the actual pit lane's not very wide, it really causes a lot of congestion.
Leaders on the backstretch near the top of your screen, forming up for the restart. Pace car dives to pit road. It'll be Jimmy Johnson, Marcus Ambrose. The first 27 cars did not pit. The caution out for a spin when Kenny Schrader got into Danica Patrick in turn 3. 22 laps, restart zone, and back to green.
Yeah, the top 4 drivers, that's exactly how they were placed when we started the race.
Leader Johnson chose to restart on the inside.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be pretty much choice all day, that bottom. That's what everybody's fighting for.
Vickers fighting for second with Ambrose in the 9.
I've been watching Brian Vickers in the 55 and Ambrose in the 9. They were battling pretty hard right before that caution, but the driver we better watch is the driver we're riding with right now. Jeff Gordon in that 24 trying to take the 3rd spot away. He's had a dismal start to 2013, loves this place, 7 wins here.
Every time I was having a bad start to a year, I couldn't wait to get to Martinsville, and Jeff's the same way. He is a master at this place.
Let's go to his pit and Matt.
He was so dominant here, leading the most laps last spring until that late crash. And Alan Gustafson told me about 90% of that setup is in this race car. They've got the feel and practice that Jeff looks for. Right now, he says the car is just a little bit tight on throttle on exit, but that's pretty consistent up and down pit lane.
That's a good thing. That'll give you a nice drive up off the corner if she's a little tight, and that'll come out of the car as the fuel burns off.
Matt Kenseth took advantage. Now Logano looking to the inside of Ambrose, who could not get down to the inside quick enough, and he's got to give Joey room in the 22.
Darrell, he was flirting with disaster entering the corner that low.
Little damage to the front of Martin Truex in the 56. Who did he get together with?
Oh, look at that hood, defender. Look at that hood out. Bowed that hood up. He hit it right in the grill opening, and it really bowed the hood up.
That view is from Casey Mears.
That's a carbon fiber hood, so it bowed it.
Back at 6th place, Keselowski. Trying to follow his teammate up through and take advantage of Ambrose. Remember, the 9 restarted outside pole, Darrell, but had no way to get to the inside lane and still doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, once you get out there, and nobody's going to cut you any slack. They know if they can keep you out there, they don't have to deal with you.
Here comes Kyle Busch, Dale Jr. right behind him.
I was going to say Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that 88 started back in the 17th position. Our points leader coming into Martinsville, he has cracked the top 10 already.
Junior's a man on a mission this year. I mean, he really seems to me like he is driven, really driven to have a great year and to win races, leading the points. Great start to this season.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. said the first couple of times he came here, he hit everything, including the fire truck.
Oh, yeah.
But he's learned to master this place.
Matter of fact, his dad told him to hit the fire truck because that's the only thing you haven't hit.
Make it 100%.
.29 laps complete. Pole sitter Jimmy Johnson's Hendrick Chevrolet in control in Martinsville. Laps complete. Let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Dale Earnhardt Jr. running 6th as the fastest lap of the race so far. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with the NASCAR Mobile 13 app and truly unlimited data from Sprint. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Jimmy Johnson gave the first lap up to Marcus Ambrose and took command for the next 38 circuits. Steve Burns.
Like Jimmy Johnson saying his car was just a little bit snug in the center, but then he said it's really starting to roll the center well. He's one of the few drivers I've heard say that, which obviously is helping him get off the corner. He said he's being conservative when he gets back to the gas pedal, waiting to see how this track takes rubber or not.
Thanks, Steve. Johnson leading from Vickers, Gordon, Kenseth, and Kyle Busch in 5th. Now 6th, who was battling with Brad Keselowski, but Keselowski ended up in 11th after this.
Yeah, Kyle gets a look underneath here. He kind of gives Brad the bump there, gets him up the hill a bit, and then he just uses up it. I thought that would cut the left rear tire of Keselowski's car down into 2, but apparently he's all right. But that splitter getting up in there works on that left rear.
Now look at Casey Kane in that 5 car. Remember, he was one of the drivers that came to pit road on that first caution and got fresh tires. He seemed to be one of the few that's getting a reward for coming and getting those fresh tires, because now he's working his way back into the top 10.
Larry, I think we're going to see that a lot, and I think this is a lesson learned early on. Watching the race yesterday, 4 tires were like worth a second a lap, and that's a lot over old tires.
See a little debris on the left side of the front end opening of Jimmy Johnson, but what I did see in the garage area yesterday as they were getting these cars ready to race, they are running max opening to get the air in there.
Yeah, and on a track like this, you run so close together, you can get that off there pretty easy.
And he already did. It's already gone.
Look up on Joe Nemechek, trying to put him a lap down. Scott Speed, Scott Briggs. Danica Patrick 1 lap back. Mike McDowell in the garage area.
You know, I think as I watch the 18 car going off turn 2 right there, Chris asked me in the pre-race show, did I think he could win here? He doesn't have a win here, Kyle Busch. His driving style really doesn't complement this racetrack, or the track doesn't complement him. But if he's doing this year like I think he's doing, he might be somebody we want to keep an eye on, because he seems to really back it down a lot. He seems to be a lot more methodical, and he seems to really have his emotions and everything else under control. And here's a great pass by the master for second place. Big Daddy.
Jeff Gordon. You want to learn to race Martinsville, follow Jeff Gordon as he passes Brian Vickers in the 55 for 3rd, and now moves up on Nemechek. He's about a second behind the leader, his teammate Jimmy Johnson. Remember 1 year ago when those two restarted on the front row for the final restart, And Clint Boyer came in, cleaned the 3 of them off in turn 1, and Ryan Newman went on to win.
And if you want to see what makes him so good here, look how smooth he is. I mean, you're putting 850 horsepower down coming up off the corner. He gets a little look back there, but look how gentle, just how smooth he is on the steering wheel. And this is a tough little racetrack to get around and not be juking on the wheel a little bit. So that's really got a good driving race car for him right now.
Kenny Schrader falls a lap down to the leader, who now dips underneath J.J. Yelin. Let's take a look at our Toyota top performers. 50 laps in at Martinsville. Brian Vickers in 3rd, Kyle Busch in 4th, Matt Kenseth 5th, Clint Boyer 6th, all in a pack.
You know, Darrell, back to Jeff Gordon, I think one reason that he's also good here, he understands about keeping your car clean. 40 starts, he's been running at the end of all 40 of those races.
Jimmy Johnson up front. A lot of the action has been centered in the middle of the pack. Bump and run jousting between Ryan Newman and Carl Edwards that got Newman in front of Edwards, and then he slid up high in 4 and got worked back with Almirola also picking up a spot.
I think the 17 car is Stenhouse. I think he got up out of the groove, got that build up on his tires, all those rubber marbles on his tires, and it feels like you got 4 flats until you can get that burned off.
First time at Martinsville in a Sprint Cup car for the rookie.
Yeah, and there you can see he goes down a lap to our leader, Jimmy Johnson. That those drivers we were looking at a while ago, that little bit of a wad, there's a sense of urgency there because the leader's only about 3 or 4 seconds behind them.
Those hot tires are like flypaper. When they go up out of the groove, they just pick up everything that they run over, and it's like you got 4 flats.
Matt, is Stenhouse okay?
At this juncture, Mike, he appears to be okay, but one of his big issues going into the race, he told me, is his tendency is to overdrive the corner, and then he washes out and gets himself in trouble. So it's going to be a huge day of learning at Martinsville.
I like what he said earlier in the week. He's completed every single lap of the 5 races here in 2013. He's a lap down now, but he was basically saying, my goal, go there and try to run as many laps as possible.
I say it all the time. This is one of the hardest racetracks you'll ever go to. It's not too bad when you're out there by yourself, but you put 43 guys out there with you, and you got to really be on you got to get used to this place. You got to learn a driving style for it.
Jeff Gordon in 2nd now by 1.5 to his teammate Jimmy Johnson. Casey Kane just made the move underneath Clint Boyer. That's for 6th place, Krista.
And one of the reasons, Mike, right now Clint Boyer is struggling just a little bit on throttle off the turns. He's real tight. He needs rear grip. That's what he's asking for whenever they come in. They're one of the cars that did not pit earlier in the race.
And that's another car, Larry, that we watched him practice. He led practice a couple of times with the fastest speeds that we thought would be really good today. But this tire and the way the track's taking rubber is throwing some of these guys a big curve, I believe.
Kyle Busch may have been biding his time because now he has moved up into 3rd place. There was quite a gap. Now it's down to 3.8 and closing between Kyle's number 18 and the leaders. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was 6th. He has slipped to 9th, Matt.
Mike, at that first caution, Dale Jr. and Steve Letarte had a long discussion about whether to pit or stay out. At that point, Stevie said that he wanted to stay out. Let the tires go through a heat cycle, cool off, and then what they would do over the course of the next long run. Learning now for later in the race for possible strategy ideas.
Well, there's some concerns about tires. Camber here, some of the inside of the shoulders of the tires have been showing cords. Right rears have been wearing out. Left sides have been graining up quite a bit. There's some real things going on right now. These teams are trying to figure out what to do.
Junior now 7 seconds back of the leader, Jimmy Johnson, in the 48 Chevrolet, who has just lapped Juan Pablo Montoya.
And I know interviewing him during some of our practice sessions, he was real optimistic about that 42, but I tell you, they got the driver picking him up, laying him down. Casey Kane in that 5. He just goes by Brian Vickers, Steve. Brian Vickers, one of the drivers that didn't pit.
And Larry Mack, Brian Vickers said his car was really good through the center under caution.
Scott Speed.
I thought that was David Ruderman there for a minute.
Now the pirate paint scheme on his Levine Family Racing Ford. Surrender the sponsor is their motto as they search for one. And And Speed had gone a lap down early. Sits on the straightaway here.
One thing to remember about this racetrack, you can only enter the pits or the garage over on the back straightaway. There's no openings in the wall other than where you come out of the pits and where you go into the pits. So down the front here, nowhere to turn off the track.
70 laps complete. Second caution of the day. Well, Pablo Montoya will be the Aaron's lucky dog. You don't need credit. All you need is Aaron's. So he'll be back on the lead lap when we restart. Couple of unique features to Martinsville Speedway. Asphalt straightaways, concrete corners. The transition between, as you see it there, with a little bit of rubber buildup. And oh, by the way, there's that curbing on the inside of the racetrack in the corners. And the marbles and tire debris that's left on the outside of the corner looks like that close up.
It's a very challenging racetrack for all those reasons.
I don't think we'll see strategy here. I think we'll see all 28 drivers on the lead lap pit road, and this is where we're going to be oh, that was close.
Two big winners on that run. Casey Kane restarted 27th, is running 4th, and Jeff Burton, who started 29th, is up to 11th. Krista?
And you mentioned Casey Kane, one of the guys who stopped before. He was able to get back to the front of the pack, even though he had those tires. That's what they're going to do this time as well. 4 tires. Kenny Francis asked Casey, how do you feel? He said, I feel good. Matt?
Jeff Gordon started 6th, currently in the 2nd position. Gordon telling Alan Gustafson, basically, I cannot turn the wheel at all, can barely touch the gas. The car absolutely sideways loose, looking to pull a spring rubber out of the right rear. And meanwhile, the 18 Steve of Kyle Busch, his car absolutely free. Possible wedge adjustment there as well.
Chad Canals told Jimmy Johnson to be careful coming onto pit road near the wall. Jimmy said his car had freed up a little bit. 4 tires for the 48.
Boy, I tell you who had a well of a stop. Jamie McMurray in that one car. Look at all the spots that he gained. 3 spots. That's huge here at Martinsville.
I think the 5 car had something go wrong on his stop, Larry. It looked like he spent a little extra time in the pits on left side.
Time for an AT&T race break, brought to you by the nation's largest 4G LTE network. Rethink possible. Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers looking on, and we saw some early pit stops, or let's do a quick recap before we get to those. The drivers anxious to get back after a week off, thinking racing, thinking revenge. All smiles. Denny Hamlin having to watch. Richmond, he hopes to return. And then race in Talladega, the early caution with Danica Patrick, who was working her way up from the back of the pack. Spun out, Ken Schrader got into her in some tight quarters, and this is what we expect much of the afternoon so far. Tempers under control. So is the thought of payback. How about those decisions on when to pit, when not to pit?
I think a lot of crew chiefs took notes on that, because on lap 20 we restarted and Casey Kane drove from 26 all the way up to the top 5. So obviously tires are important. He passed 20 cars in just 50 laps, and so you don't usually do that at Martinsville because it's such tight quarters racing, but those tires paid dividends for Casey Kane, so all those crew chiefs took notes. Look for some action later.
And Chad Canals, of course, the crew chief for Jimmy Johnson, with Jeff Gordon, a couple of 7-time winners, and Hendrick Motorsports, which in the California race wasn't much of a threat. You know, the race last year, they thought they had it won, 1, 2, 3. They look pretty strong today, as we expected.
Early in the going, those cars are tough, but I'm telling you, Chris, I really believe it's going to come down to who makes the right decisions late in the race to get tires, because of the importance of them I just spoke of. A little interesting action early on with Kyle Busch banging into Brad Keselowski and pushing him out of the way. Guarantee you Brad took a note about that and said, okay, roundabout's fair play.
And you wonder if that's a little bit of Joe Gibbs racing and Roger Penske racing, going back to Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin in California. Speaking of Kyle Busch, who's trying to win back-to-back races, he was on an episode that was taped recently on FX of the show Anger Management with Charlie Sheen. So maybe he's taking some cues from that to work through today's race. Racing fans think you know something about speed. Buckle up and play the fastest driver challenge called Star Fast from your mobile phone and predict who will have the fastest times in today's race. All brought to you by the nation's fastest 4G LTE network, AT&T. Rethink possible.
Thanks, Chris. Get ready for the restart. 30 cars on the lead lap. 40 cars on the racetrack. Jimmy Johnson, your race leader. has now become the 7th driver to lead over 2,000 laps in his career at Martinsville. He's going to bring them down to the green flag with Kyle Busch.
Well, you got two of the best at restarts on the front row right now. Kyle Busch, pretty good on taking advantage of those fresh tires. See what he can do with Jimmy Johnson.
Jamie McMurray, after that great pit stop, settles in third. Jeff Gordon to the inside of former teammate Brian Vickers.
Boy, they are running over each other, and we got cars up the track. What a mess. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, Montoya and Rudeman almost crashed in turn 4, but they got it straightened out.
Yeah, Montoya in the 42 just he got the free pass on that caution.
He just about got the free pass into the wall.
All right, McMurray's now caught up high on the outside, so Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth moved past. There goes Earnhardt into turn number 1 to take over 5th.
I don't know where Jamie McMurray's pit. I know he had a great pit stop, but I watched him come into his pit box. He must be right in between or right on top of a timing line because he really got into his pit box fast.
Let's find out from Krista.
Yeah, he's right down here in the corner. You hear the volume down here because he's hitting where the guys get back on the throttle coming out of turn 4. Jamie loves this racetrack. You know, he's always really run well, hasn't necessarily had the results, but right now, a very good car. He's really tight right now. He just came on the radio and said that, but overall, very good for Jamie McMurray.
Jeff Burton in the 31. The Childress Institute for Pediatric Trauma at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center. That's what's on that car today. Car owner Richard Childress. That is his charity and does great things for kids, and he's moving up.
Dale Jr.'s moving up too, and Mike, that car really likes new tires. He took off early in the run of the drop of the green flag, fell back a little bit through the run, but that car really likes 4 brand new tires on it. They really feel good to Dale Jr.
Problem is, Darrell, you only get 11 sets of those brand new tires to get through 500 laps here. Keselowski, Biffle side by side. Kurt Busch trying to take advantage and fill the spot. Nope, he's going to give Biffle room. Here comes Tony Stewart.
Yeah, they got all bottled up. You can see up in front of Mark in the 11 car. Everybody slowed down. Somebody needed maybe the spotter should have warned Tony before he got there.
Yeah, that looked like a lot more of a case of Mark just getting out way early because of what happened up in front of him.
A lot of dust-ups all the way back through the pack here. Only 417 laps of this to go.
Well, you know, the bottom is obviously the preferred line, and everybody's fighting hard. Danica just got into the, I think it was the 83 car, or the 34, no, the 83, there he is. She gets into him coming off the corner. Oh, Rudeman just about took a ride there, and Danica got a lot of damage to the right front.
Aerodynamically, that won't hurt that car, not at these speeds at this short a track. But should that fender get against the tire, that could be trouble.
That's a whole nother story right there. When I look at our top 5 drivers right now, Johnson and Busch and Gordon, Earnhardt and Matt Kenseth, I don't think that should come as a surprise because they're out of the Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing stables. Those two organizations, they've won 17 of the last 22 races here at Martinsville.
There's your Fast 5 after 86 laps in Martinsville. 95 laps in, and there's your new leader. Apparently Kyle Busch was biding his time because at lap 90, he made the move on Jimmy Johnson to put his Toyota out front.
It's a nice run up off the corner. He's looking, he's looking, he's looking. He's there.
Montoya to pit road. It's been a tough day for Juan. Got lapped a while ago. And now tires and adjustments to the left side. There's why.
Obviously the left front tire is down on that 42 car.
It looked like from contact there. The left front fender was pretty well.
You can see the damage on the left front got into the tire, cut it down. You run so low air pressure, you can run as little as 8.5 pounds in your left side tires. They cut down real easily.
So Jimmy Johnson drops to second, Steve.
Mike, his race car has gotten a little bit loose, but on the last pit stop, Chad Canals climbed out to the pit box, looked at the tires that came off the car and said, Jimmy, the tires look great. Keep up the tempo. Keep up the pace you're running.
Well, and point earlier, that was a little bit of a concern with this track not really rubbering up. That normally increases tire wear, and I know they were all anxious to look at the tires.
And Larry, one of the things this new car has done, we see it in qualifying, a new track record here by the 48 Jimmy Johnson. It's increased the pace of the race. These guys are racing harder, driving harder, going faster than they've ever gone before. It makes it more difficult. A fast car is harder to drive. Closing rate is quicker. A lot of things that these guys are still getting their arms around about this new car.
But Darrell, they're only lapping the track 2 or 3 tenths slower than the fastest laps of the race, so things have not changed much. You don't often associate fine dining with short track bill of fare, but Jeff Hammond does.
Well, Mike, we always talk about when we come to Martinsville the hot dogs, but today I'm up here at Club 47, which is, well, you know, appropriately named after the fact that this racetrack, Martinsville, was opened in 1947. Even though it's one of the oldest racetracks on the circuit, it still has kept up with the times. It's got a great atmosphere up here with some great cuisine. Look here, we got some prime rib. We also have some very nice looking desserts, and one of their specialties, look right here, it's what you call sugar bacon, and you can dip it in chocolate sauce right here. One of their specialties up here. I mean, this is one of the cool things. If you want to have a VIP treatment, you can get here at Martinsville just like you can get at some of the bigger super speedways. Guys?
Well, bon appetit, but better than that bill of fare is the battle for the lead, where Jimmy Johnson has gone back in front of Kyle Busch, and here comes Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers that's moved up into the picture. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88, as well as Kenseth in the 20, and Boyer in the 15.
See it here with Jeff Gordon all the time. Just about every time we come here. His car is good. On the longer the run goes, the better his car gets. Seems like the 48 and the 18 both are pretty quick on 4 fresh tires, but Jeff Gordon seems to be a little more consistent over the long haul.
Jeff has 7 wins here. So does Jimmy Johnson, but Jimmy has 6 since Gordon last went to victory lane here in October 2005.
And Jimmy Johnson said this week he struggled here his rookie season in 2002, and he said when he came here in 2003 and got lapped by Tony Stewart by lap 50, he said, oh, that's how you drive that racetrack.
You know
it's
what,
been game on.
You know what you learn here? It's hand-eye, obviously. It always is for a driver and athlete. It's how you use your feet. It's how you apply the brakes. You watch Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon, their cars never are in it slamming the front down. They're always off the gas. See how his car's up in the nose right there and how it eases down? That's a mark of really finessing the pedals.
We can tell you, but let's show you. Here's Kevin Harvick.
It's a tap dance. I mean, you watch Harvick. He's in the game. He plays with the throttle a little bit. Get that 850 horsepower cranked up. See how he pats that brake pedal? That first pat is to get that pedal where you want it. Then the second one is when you apply the pressure. But you want him to get off the brake and off of the gas. You want to get on the brake and off the gas coordinated at the same time.
Talk about the heat that's generated. Look at the booties that he has on the heels of his feet. There's so much heat inside that race car, especially with all the brake you're using and everything else going on.
Your left leg will be a lot shorter when you leave here today, I can tell you.
Harvick's in 10th place. There's the lead. Jimmy Johnson from Kyle Busch. That's what 0.6 of a second looks like on the paperclip, the half-mile Martinsville Speedway. 117 of 500 laps complete. Martinsville, Virginia. Jimmy Johnson in the leader.
Jeff Gordon just gets around Kyle Busch here coming off turn 2. Made a nice move on Kyle and was able to make the pass going down the front straightaway into turn 1.
So that's a change at 2nd place. Move Gordon up to 2nd, Kyle to 3rd, Matt Kenseth 4th, Clint Boyer 5th, then McMurray, Kane, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Talking about short track bill of fare, well, fans here in Martinsville were treated to some barbecue courtesy of the Diet Mountain Dew Pit Stop Tour. Custom barbecue smoker, fun activities, and of course, plenty of Diet Mountain Dew. Find out when it's coming to your town at Facebook/Diet Dew. Two Chevys, 3 Toyotas, 4 Chevrolets, a couple more Toyotas, and the first Ford is Keselowski in 12th.
You know, I was surprised, Larry, that Ford hasn't won here since 2002. I think it was Kurt Busch driving for Jack Roush.
Yeah, it's not necessarily been a track where Ford have dominated by no means.
Not recently. Matt Kenseth has passed his Gibbs Toyota teammate Kyle Busch. So move Kenseth up to third, Matt.
Mike, a few moments ago, Kyle told crew chief Dave Rogers, I'm not exactly sure what really happened there. I was fine, and then it was almost too easy. They ran me down, and then maybe he said I started overdriving the corner, and then the car absolutely starting to go back to the free side. Krista?
Want to give you an update on Clint Boyer. Right now, he is so good through the center of the turns. That's really where he's making up ground. They're telling him, your race car is so good, just take care of your tires.
Well, I think, Mike, you pointed out earlier, the only blemish he's had all week was qualifying the other day. He bobbled a little bit. He got into the wall coming off turn 4. Won both the practice sessions yesterday. He was third quickest on Friday in practice. We knew he was going to be moving to the front.
Larry, I think if we're going to have any kind of tire issue, whether it's wear or heat from the brakes or whatever, we've run just about long enough to start seeing that if it's going to happen.
The 29 of Harvick moved past Dale Jr. and now 2 Martin Truex in the 56 has passed the 88 who comes under fire from Brian Vickers right there. So Matt Earnhardt's dropped to 10th. What's up?
And the balance starting to go back to the free side for Dale Earnhardt Jr. But I had a conversation, Mike, this morning with Steve Letarte. And Letarte told me that, he was part of Jeff Gordon's early success here, some of those early wins. And he said, if you look at Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon, they're almost polar opposite as far as the traits they have at different racetracks, except for here. Both are so impressive, he says, at being patient and manage your tires over the course of a run. He said that's one reason why Junior has had so many top 5s here at Martinsville, 10 working on 11.
So, Darrell, we're seeing a lot of comers and goers, but drivers that are backing up in the pack right now, it's too soon to be concerned?
I think it's a pattern that we will see develop even as we go further into the race. We see some guys that are really good when they come in and get 4 tires. We saw it with the 5-car, Casey Kane. Some cars are really fast on new tires, but they can't hang. Jeff Gordon seems to be a guy that can have a pretty good car on new tires and hang over the long haul. That's what you're looking at right now.
Another variable, right before that last caution came out at lap 69, we started getting a cloud covering. It started cooling down just a little bit, and here over about the last 20 or 30 laps, the sun has popped back out, and that's a huge difference, especially on those concrete corners.
And the track's going to build up rubber in the groove. That changes to where you run around this racetrack as well.
Tony Stewart just outside the top 20, 21st. You can enter for a chance to win the all-new 2014 Silverado LTZ, a VIP Chevy racing experience for 2. Meet and greet Tony Stewart. Visit winthenewsilverado.com to enter.
And one of the most difficult things at this racetrack as the tires start to wear and the track gets a little slicker is if your car is loose, you just can't put the power down. And what makes you good here is not how hard you go into the corner, it's how well you come off the corner. And that's why you'll watch Jimmy Johnson. Some of these guys are really good. They just float off the corner. Somebody will catch right up with you. But look at how Clint, on corner exit, he gaps him. Gets down here to the corner. Clint backs off early. McMurray drives in a little harder. Catches right up to his back bumper. But what you want is what Clint has. Nice and smooth up off the corner.
They'll work under rookie Josh Wise, who is 3 laps down of the 35.
You don't pass people here getting in the corner. You wreck them. If you get up on or make a run on a guy and you get a run on him down the straightaway, you can't do anything but get into him. Where you pass a guy here is getting a nose on him and beating him to the start-finish line.
Now, what we're seeing, though, in these first 135 laps is a pretty temper-free race. With all the hype and the build-up over 2 weeks' time from California, fenders and all look pretty intact.
Yeah, well, when I leave home to go into the airport or to work, the first few people that cut me off and the traffic I sat in for a while doesn't bother me that much. I just turn the radio up a little bit. Then after a while, I get a little ticked off, and that's what we'll see here today.
Yeah, there'll be 2 magic moments when the voice in the driver's ear says halfway, but especially when they say 100 laps to go.
No, there's another one. Don't let him hold you up.
Clint Boyer just let Jamie McMurray go, and that puts McMurray up into the top 5. He started 13th.
See, that's another smart move by Boyer. Don't have somebody running all over your back bumper, bamming into you and taking a chance on spinning you out.
Here are your points leaders, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Brad Keselowski. Isn't it interesting that with everything that happened at California and all the discussion afterward, hardly anybody noticed Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the point leader.
I think he likes it that way, though.
Yeah. You could be right.
As long as it doesn't last.
Keselowski looking inside. Chevy versus Ford battle. Matt?
Thank you, TJ.
An update on the tour, Brad Keselowski. Now, his car was so free on the first run. They've made a couple different adjustments, and Brad's telling the team that the car is so much better on forward bite. And his spotter, Joey Meyer, told Brad it looks like the track is starting to take rubber. On the right side tires, on the inside lane, you're starting to see some black on the racetrack.
Yeah, that was one of the big changes this track was going to go through, and that changes the setup of the car. Then you got to make major adjustments on your pit stops.
Jimmy Johnson leads Jeff Gordon by 9/10 of a second after 138 laps. Second, just a couple of car lengths and 2 lap cars back. Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch, Jamie McMurray are the top 5 at lap 147. And Boyer, Kane, Harvick, Truex, and Keselowski. Mark Martin is driving for Denny Hamlin today. Hamlin is here, and here is what's fresh off the wire, brought to you by KFC. Steve?
Well, Mike, as you know, Denny Hamlin, a 4-time winner here at this racetrack. Mark Martin just said the front tires are not working well right now. It just will not turn. Here's what Denny told Mark.
Mark, while you got an open racetrack and your entry's still good, try entering a little bit higher and pull it down the racetrack on this. That should help your center turn a little bit better.
Little advice from a former winner here, watching his ride go around. That's got to be tough for Denny Hamlin. That's what's fresh off the wire. 42 other drivers in this race besides Mark Martin. 18 of them have been Mark's teammate at one time or another in his Sprint Cup career.
That was pretty good advice Denny gave Mark. I was watching Mark. He did move up a little later, higher entry into the corner, and then dive the thing down and kind of corner exit a little tighter, closer on the bottom. It did seem to help him a little bit. I watched his lap times. Might have been worth a 10th.
Danica Patrick brought out the first of 2 cautions today when she got spun by Kenny Schrader. That put her a lap down, and she's since lost a second one and had a little contact with Kyle Busch here.
Yeah, just trying to get back in the gas and not lose any more time, and she had to, and pushed into Kyle just a bit. That's a casual contact around this joint. Doesn't hurt a whole lot.
Matt?
And Dave Rogers just told Kyle that the left rear quarter panel looks good on your car. Danica did knock the Goodyear label off the tire, but otherwise you look good.
Yeah, Rubin's racing here. I mean, there's no question about it.
You know, guys, I know we've got a long way to go here. We still have over 340-something laps to go. But that driver right behind Kyle Busch in 18 in that orange car, I just can't say enough how good it is to see Jamie McMurray running this well. Sitting there in the top 5, started back in 13th. He has not had a top 5 finish since Bristol, August of 2011. About a year and a half since he's had a top 5.
And Larry, a lot of that started in the pits. That great pit stop he had got him good track position, and he really has took advantage of it.
Well, and he was one of the drivers that made that stop on lap 15. I think they got some adjustments made on that car early that really helped him too, Darrell.
Jeff Gordon under fire. Kyle Busch to the inside. Gordon gives him just enough room, and third place changes hands. So Matt Kenseth second, now to Jimmy Johnson by 2.5 as Jeff Gordon is on the backup plan. Not that it's a plan.
No, it just seems like these the setups of these cars, the cars get really loose after a long period of time. I don't know if it's tire wear or track conditions. I don't know which one's playing the biggest factor right now.
16th place. Joey Logano on the 22. And Eric Almirola go at it, Steve.
Joey Logano struggling a bit with the handle on that 22, Mike, saying it's tight in the center. Exit is not terrible, but I don't have a lot of drive off the pole.
Joey got a good qualifying run in, but I think it showed up pretty early in the race where they didn't have that thing exactly what they needed to have for him.
Well, from Joey Logano back here to Greg Biffle, when they look in their mirror, the 48 car's coming off turn 2. They're on the same straightaway. These guys have got to get some giddy up here or they're going to get lapped.
Yeah, there's about to be a sense of urgency here, and that bump and run that Larry talked about is likely to come into play when the leader's in your mirror. And this time in the front straightaway, Logano let Almirola go.
Yeah, and here's Jimmy Johnson, our leader, right on the back bumper of the 83 car. Greg Biffle's the next car in sight, and then there's a guy I thought would have a great day, Carl Edwards in the 99. They're about to go a lap down.
Yeah, that would put all 3 of the Roush Fenway drivers at least 1 lap down. Denny Hamlin has walked all the way out there to the edge of the pit road, Darrell, to watch the racetrack.
Well, you know, having a driver that's had success at a racetrack like Denny has, and an experienced driver like Mark Martin, Mark's open. I mean, he's open-minded. If he can help me, if you can help me, if you see something I can do differently, tell me. Mark has a style. I mean, he's got a way about the way he drives the car. Maybe Denny can give him some pointers that will pick him up a little bit.
And Denny's at the inside of turn number 2, looking to see when drivers are getting back to the throttle and when those cars are picking up and running down that back straightaway. Regan Smith has come to pit road.
And he just had been lapped by our leader, Jimmy Johnson, in the 48.
There's Denny and his vantage point. As Mark Martin is in 20th place, just behind Tony Stewart. And here comes Jimmy Johnson up on the 99 of Carl Edwards.
Yeah, the most consistent car lap after lap after lap is Jimmy Johnson. I mean, he's just running 1980s almost every lap.
Just talked about the Roush Fenway drivers, and there you see Carl Edwards. He'll now go a lap down.
Jamie McMurray inside of Jeff Gordon. That's for 4th. And in the wall, Josh Wise. He continues.
Actually, Mike, he got up and he got all that stuff on his tires, and the car wouldn't turn. And he's still up there, and I don't think the car will turn. I just think he's got a lot of rubber buildup on his tires.
Got a nudge from Paul Menard there.
Looks like he might be able to drop it into the pit right here if that's what he needs to do, but I'm not sure that's what I don't know if that's his problem or not.
Looks like he's trying to clean him off and continue, Darrell.
I think he is. If he doesn't cause a big wreck right here, he might get a chance to do that.
Now he's dropped down to the inside apron, and there's not a lot of traction there necessarily. We stay green. We've had only 2 caution flags. The last one back at lap 70, 96 laps ago.
Boy, our leader, is he in a hornet's nest or what?
Got the word that Regan Smith had a right front tire that was cut, because we're still about 25 to 30 laps away from what would be green flag stops.
Jimmy Johnson leading 167 laps into the STP Gas Booster 500. We know it's from a Ford because they're the only ones that use real grills. The other makes use decals. Watch the 17, bump, run, and oh, by the way.
Yeah, I'm glad we had a picture of that. They might have thought it was a barbecue grill.
Pit road is open. Krista.
You see Jamie McMurray in the adjustment on the back end of the car. That was a track bar adjustment. He's been dealing with a loose race car. Loose, but not as loose as the cars around him, Matt.
Chassis adjustment already completed for Matt Kent. 2 issues for him. Radio communications issues. He fixed that himself, Steve.
Matt, Jimmy Johnson said the car is good. You fixed my entry last stop. I need a little bit of help in the center, but don't hurt my entry. 4 tires and Sunoco fuel for Jimmy Johnson.
And he scoots out from that first pit stall. The pole sitter has first choice of pit stall. At Martinsville, you choose pit 1.
And even if you have a little bit of a slow stop, that pit box, that selection is huge, because you only have to move that little bit of distance right there, and you win the battle.
Well, we've talked about adhesion and traction on the racetrack and the track taking rubber, and if it doesn't, you end up with a little marbles, a lot of marbles up and outside the groove. See if Jeff Hammond has his marbles.
Well, Mike, I hope I do, but folks have been talking about it. You hear the Daryl and Larry and Mike all talking about how the rubber's not going to the racetrack and how we're creating marbles. This is what we're talking about. This is what's up there outside the groove. You can see how this rubber has literally been shredded off the tires. And what happens is it kind of gets in there, looking at this type of condition, the more they run over it, it turns it into something like this, which almost looks like a marble. That's a hard piece of rubber. You can imagine what that feels like when you run across it with a tire, especially when it's hot and more hot rubber going to it. That's where some of these guys are getting in trouble. When they get up out of the groove, they get their tires covered with this stuff. They've got to get back down, get it cleaned off to be able to continue. This is going to be a problem because this is going to continue to build up the rest of the afternoon, guys.
Thanks, Jeff. Working the third caution of the day, debris in turn 4 from Ricky Stenhouse's car. Pit stops order of the day. Here's today's Ford EcoBoost track facts. Martinsville Speedway, shortest track on the Sprint Cup circuit and the only track to host a race in every NASCAR season. Since 1949, Kurt Busch, fall of '02, had the last win here. In 1910, Henry Ford drove through Martinsville on the new National Highway, along with Harvey Firestone. A couple of iconic names in automobile history.
That caution was a huge break for some of the Ford drivers, especially like Eric Almirola, Marcus Ambrose, Joey Logano. They were about to go a lap down when that caution came out.
Tony Stewart got the free pass on this caution flag. Let's take an inside look at what's happening in the Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Jimmie Johnson has led the most laps today by far. Get unlimited access with the NASCAR Mobile 13 app and truly unlimited data from Sprint. No metering, no throttling, no overages while on the Sprint network. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Casey Mears speeding, entering pit road. Tail end on the restart.
Yeah, Casey's being shown right now 23rd, 1 lap down, so he's going to be all the way back in the 27th spot because we have about 7 drivers 1 lap down right now.
Only 3 cars off track. 177 laps in. Scott Speed, Scott Riggs, Michael McDowell.
You know, Mike, back to Casey Mears in that 13 car, 2 consecutive 15th place finishes here the last 2 races. That's big for a single car operation. Top 15s are hard to come by.
I think this new car, Larry, has really played into the hands of some of the smaller teams. I don't know how long that'll last, but some of the guys that usually don't have a shot at running up front and getting good finishes are taking advantage of this new car.
Saw Mark Martin, who will restart 19th. Driving today for Denny Hamlin, who was out with his back healing after that hard California crash. It'll be Jimmie Johnson, Kyle Busch up front, Kenseth Murray, Gordon Boyer, Harvick, Kane, Truex and Earnhardt, the top 10. Green flag. Jimmie Johnson yards Kyle Busch. Matt Kenseth gives Kyle plenty of room, and they all shuffle up down the back straightaway. Ambrose gets into the side of Martin. Everybody scatters. Cautions back out, and spinning down the front straightaway, Clint Boyer.
Wow.
Yeah, his teammate Brian Vickers has all types of damage on the right front and the left rear. Something huge went on through 1 and 2 right after that restart. Joey Logano, the 22, all types of front end damage.
Wow, Martin Truex.
Yeah, the one car's got the rear bumper dragging over there on the back. I mean, everybody's got damage.
So all 3 of the Michael Waltrip Racing drivers involved. You see Jeff Burton at 31, Mark Martin a little bit of damage in the 11.
Let's see what happened here, boys. They're all bottled up here. Looked like the 5 got off a turn a little late there, and the 88 got into him a tad. And then the 88 got pushed up the hill.
That's where it all really started.
Man, and Marcus Ambrose into the side of Brian Vickers, and then it gets uglier down here.
Ambrose tries to recover, piles into Mark Martin.
I think Marcus in the 9 may have a tire down, and it caused him to get up into Mark coming through there.
And the caution's out, and the track is almost blocked on the high side from Boyer.
It's kind of like you see right here that.
What happened to Junior, Daryl? His car just stopped accelerating.
Yeah, I don't know if he got a little nudge from Casey Kane in the 5. I don't know if it got him out of whack there, and he backed off real quick. I'm not sure what happened.
Well, that's what happened down the front straightaway. The drivers up front knew the caution was out, and some other drivers right behind them couldn't react quickly enough.
Boy, that's ugly, boys.
Jimmy Johnson rolled out of the throttle quickly, and there's Travis Kvapil out of his car. Now watch Jimmy check up here. Once he knows the caution is out.
Caution's out. Caution's out. Back it down. Apparently, Jimmy knew it was out and nobody else did. Not sure about that little move right there, why Jimmy slowed down and everybody else kept going.
You see Jamie McMurray in the one car there who's being shown in the 6th position. He has his whole rear bumper panel is dragging behind that car.
He's on pit. He's going to have to come to pit road and get that pulled off.
One driver got a good break out of this, and that is Carl Edwards. He gets the free pass on this, the 4th caution flag of the day.
Well, you know, one thing about racing, you never underestimate the power of luck. You know, it good or bad. This case here, a lot of bad luck for some guys.
And on the run to the caution flag, let's review the rule, which is once the flag comes out, your positions are locked by the last timing line you cross prior to the caution. You are, however, required to maintain reasonable speed on the racetrack.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson's the one I'm not sure about what happened, because he saw the caution or knew the caution was out. He slowed down and everybody else kept going.
Steve?
Yeah, guys, I heard Jimmy Johnson say at first he said he thought there was oil up in turn 3, and then he said he thought he had so much rubber under his tires that he really had to get off the gas pedal. And I think that's what you saw.
He was way up the racetrack through turn 3 and 4 when that caution did come out. So I'd say that's exactly what happened right there.
At that point, however, he was still the leader and is scored as such right now with Kyle Busch 2nd, Matt Kenseth 3rd, Jeff Gordon and Jamie McMurray. But good bit of damage to other cars. You saw Logano, Stenhouse.
About half the field had gotten some pretty serious damage.
Right now, pit road is still closed.
Well, let's ride and listen along with Jimmy Johnson, who may have benefited from the timing of this caution. Let's hear.
Right into with you, right with you. Inside, lots up. Caution. There's oil or something down in 3.
So it wasn't Johnson reacting to the caution flag. The car slid out from under him in turn 3. He thought it was oil.
Yeah.
And the caution came out for what had happened at the other end.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I don't think there was any oil in the turn. I'm not sure what happened there. A little confusing.
Lucky break for the leader, though?
Oh, by all means. I mean, you know, otherwise, if we stayed green, he was going backward.
Yep. There are the cars that have damage from this pileup at lap 180. We've now run 5 more laps under caution, but that's a pretty big list.
Yeah, and several of them, you see Martin Truex Jr. in the 56 already in the garage area. Several of them were running in the top 10.
Oh. Mayhem at Martinsville. See the damage to a dozen or more cars after this pileup, after the restart, at 2 ends of the racetrack. And it looks like Martin Truex and Travis Kvapil got the most damage in those 2 collisions. Now there is Jimmy Johnson coming out of turn number 4. Now the light's on. The last timing line that he crossed prior to the caution was in the middle of turns 3 and 4. Well, after which Kyle Busch passed him, but didn't get to that next timing line before the yellow. So Johnson is still the leader because NASCAR judged that he maintained reasonable speed. He's still out front.
But what you saw at the tail end of the replay, that's where Clint Boyer and Martin Truex Jr. really got in trouble. They started stacking up behind Jimmy Johnson, and that's how Truex got into the back of Boyer, spun him out, but more importantly, tore the front end of Martin Truex Jr.'s car up.
Most of the leaders were on pit road 15 laps ago, so aside from the cars with damage, Dale Jr. is also coming in. Here's Krista.
Jamie McMurray, you see the crew back on the back end of the car really working on that bumper cover. You saw on your television screen the bumper cover dragging. They said, don't worry so much about the left side. Flare out those fenders and fix the right rear of the car. Matt?
And Steve Letarte looked over the damage of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Chevrolet, said too much cosmetic damage on that left rear corner. Jason Burdett, the car chief, he's got a hammer. He's trying to knock that fender out of place so that way it doesn't rub the tire. They're going to change all 4 tires, no fuel for the 88. Going to use some huge bare bound, big chunks of duct tape to try to piece together that left rear quarter panel.
Same thing happening on the 15 of Clint Boyer. Let's have one more look to break. Under caution for this. Still the race leader. The first wreck is behind him in the back straightaway. This is between 3rd and 3 and 4. Here approximately is the timing line as Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch pass through it under the green flag. Now Johnson sliding up the racetrack. Kyle Busch passes him. The caution comes out here. However, the next timing line is not until there, approximately there. You're riding with Jeff Gordon behind the 3 leaders. Lights on before Kyle gets to that line, which would be the next timing line. Remember, when the caution light comes on, all of the video gets time-stamped for NASCAR to look at by the pushing of the button that lights up the caution lights. It's automatic. So they revert back to the last line crossed before the caution light comes on to determine the order.
Yeah, the only time that's not the case is to determine the finishing order of a race if it's on the last lap.
Correct. Down to the garage, Steve Burns.
A lot of damage to this number 56 Napa Autoports Toyota for Martin Truex Jr. They have taken the hood off the car, Mike, because there is so much work, the infrastructure that they have to work on. Brake ducts have come detached rather, so a lot of work. 15 different mechanics working on this number 56 car.
I saw Steve this morning down in the pits with his son Bryson helping gather notes and intel for today's telecast. Let's get out of Chris Myers.
Thanks, Mike. With Michael Waltrip, 55 laps to go before halfway. We're seeing a flurry of cautions more recently here, but it looked like track position and obviously making moves to move up on people been very difficult.
Yeah, it's tough to pass, and I think this caution here will provide some interesting racing because there were several guys that came to pit road only 6 or 7 laps on their tires, but they decided to get those fresh tires. Remember early in the race with only 16 laps on his tires, Casey Kane pitted and drove from the back of the field to the front. So this will mix things up. The wreck was unfortunate. It was a two wrecks that were unfortunate.
And we had 10 cars involved. Some of the green flag racing, if we see more of that, advantages for some teams, some drivers based on what you've seen so far?
I think you've run far enough under green to understand that you probably are not going to have a camber problem. Your brakes aren't getting too hot to blow out a tire, so that's comforting. There were a lot of questions coming to Martinsville about this new car because it's so fast. You give a driver a fast car, he's going to drive it harder, and that heats up the tires more, heats up the brakes more. So I think it's interesting that we've run this far and hadn't seen any big problems.
Yeah, 6 drivers broke the qualifying speed record for this track that Tony Stewart had set. Obviously, that put Jimmy Johnson on the pole. He's your leader, Mike, just ahead of Kyle Busch.
Thanks, Chris. You see lead lap cars jockeying for position, and one of those is Tony Stewart. What a break Stewart got, because one caution ago, 9 laps before the crash, Stewart got the free pass, got back on the tail end of the lead lap, and now he is in 11th.
Boy, all the lead lap drivers, they were still jockeying, trying to get to their position, coming through 3 and 4 to take the green.
Johnson, Busch, Kenseth, Gordon, and Harvick.
Larry, when they give one the go, you have so little time to make any kind of an adjustment whatsoever because you're coming back around to get the green.
Jeff Gordon in that 24 fighting Kenseth in the 20 hard for that 3rd spot. Harvick does not want to open that door for Gordon to get down to the bottom.
Nor does Keselowski, nor Kurt Busch. They're the drivers in the low lane behind Matt Kenseth, and they're all coming. Gordon slides in.
Kenseth's been lurking there. He's been in the top 4 or 5 and had a pretty good car. Not surprising to see him get by Jeff Gordon and run on down here, maybe get after his teammate.
Keselowski inside of Casey Kane for 6th. And here comes Kurt Busch in the 78.
We better keep an eye on Casey Kane in that 5. Remember, he had worked his way almost to the top 5, and they had that real bad pit stop back on that second caution, fell all the way back to 13th, working his way back toward the front.
Kane falls in line right in front of Ryan Newman, and Newman gives him the boot entering turn 3.
And see, I mean, you could easily say that Casey Kane blocked Ryan Newman, but he didn't. You got to make the corner. You got to turn to the bottom.
On point, Johnson 3 car lengths up on Kyle Busch, 4 back to Matt Kenseth, then Gordon, Harvick, and, well, everybody.
How about Tony Stewart? Just a caution ago at lap 171, he was a lap down and got the free pass. He's up in the 10th position now with his 14 car. Darrell, I think this is one of those tracks, if you can get Tony near the front, he'll stay at the front. But it's getting there, trying to overcome a bad qualifying position.
Do you remember how bad he was here when he won the championship? I mean, he was about to go a lap down. He fought tooth and nail to stay on the lead lap, came back and won the race.
Biffle, McMurray, Earnhardt. Now McMurray and Earnhardt made pit stops under that caution to repair damage, as did Logano, Mark Martin, and Jeff Burton. They're all in the top 16.
Yeah, speaking of Mark Martin, Larry, he really benefited from all that beating and banging and everything that's gone on, and now Mark's finding himself in the top 15.
Martin just ran his fastest lap of the race.
Just before that caution came out, he was about to go a lap down. Now he looks pretty good. I think Mark's coachable. What do you think?
I think he's been listening anyhow.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, Mike, in practice yesterday, we watched Mark Martin jump out there behind Jimmy Johnson and started following Jimmy and immediately picked up a couple of tenths. And I mean, there's a guy that has 48 starts at this half-mile racetrack.
And why is it that the car right in front of him is a yellow number 22?
Just because. As Denny Hamlin looks on from the top of the pit box with crew chief Darian Grubb and the rest of the folks from JGR, Mark Martin turning the wheel this week. He will then relinquish that ride to Brian Vickers as Hamlin continues his recovery from the California crash.
Mike, I know you touched on that driver that's back there in the 7th spot, Kurt Busch in that 78 car, but think about it. 2 consecutive top 5 finishes at our last 2 races. It's been a while since he had 3 consecutive top 5s.
Yeah, 51 races ago, the last time that he had back-to-back top 5s. 209 laps complete. How about a NASCAR on Fox? Spring Sunday in Virginia. Crank 'em up. Second place, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch. Teammates.
Now, see, that's a Kyle Busch I've never seen before. He pulled over and let Matt Kenseth get by because Matt was a little quicker than him. Normally, Kyle would race you to even do everything he could to keep you back there. That was really smart racing.
Jeff Gordon closes in. Then Harvick and Keselowski. Darrell, the corners here are banked 12 degrees, but does this feel like a bank track?
I thought it was banked 12 degrees the wrong way when I raced here. It never did feel like it had that much banking to me. It's always felt real flat. No side bite here at all. See if the gyro cam can maybe help us out a little bit. Yeah, she's tilting up there a tad, but it doesn't feel that way in the car. It feels flat here.
And what you're seeing there is part the angle of the track and part the G-forces that's sending that gyro sidewards. That's why you're getting more than 12 degrees out of it. Flat on the straightaway. .216 laps complete. Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch.
Stay tuned for more NASCAR on Fox.
Race to Green. You can help support the environment, including donating trees across the country and in areas devastated by natural disasters. Visit NASCAR.com/green to learn more or to make a donation. New leader, Matt Kenseth, used the bump and run on Jimmy Johnson to take over at lap 224.
Jimmy knew he was there, gave him a little bit of room to get underneath of him, and then Matt kind of used the old bumper there to scoot him up out of the way. Watch what Jimmy does once Matt gets by. Here he comes, here he comes. Thank you. Just that little touch.
Doesn't take much, does it?
All it takes is that car in front of you to wiggle, and then you pounce.
Matt?
Mike, Martinsville is one of those racetracks where Matt Kenseth never quite seemed to get the handle. He's not won here. In fact, he told his spotter, Chris Osborne, to tell Earl Barbin, Johnson's spotter, sorry about that, didn't mean to bump you. I've just never taken the lead at Martinsville under green before.
He had led 73 laps here previously, but that's over 26 races.
Well, we talked earlier about the lack of success here by the Ford drivers. Certainly Matt Kenseth, this is one of the tracks he's benefiting from joining Joe Gibbs.
You know, they talk about Mark not liking Denny Hamlin's setup, but I believe that Matt Kenseth and his teammate back there, Kyle Busch, like it pretty well.
Two drivers that's never won here at Martinsville, Matt Kenseth or Kyle Busch. One of the few tracks Kyle Busch has not won some type of a race on.
Well, this is a little early, Larry. It's coming up on 250 laps here halfway pretty shortly. But you'd like to be around the front or near the front for about the first 250, 300, and then really have at it at the end. These guys are showing what they got a little early.
Boy, Matt Kenseth is really getting bottled up with some lap drivers right now.
I wonder what he thinks when he looks up there and sees his old car.
Well, Kyle Busch, Michael, you spoke to him during your grid walk in pre-race. Did he seem pretty? He seemed pretty relaxed. Did he seem confident?
He did seem confident, which, you know, Matt's a little bit of a person that worries about how he's going to perform. But this morning he told me that he felt this team was going to elevate his chances. Obviously, that's the case, and I liked his spirit. I liked the way he was feeling.
And you also spoke to Kyle, and looked like he could win it.
Well, Kyle, I'm just amazed he hasn't won here because he's so good. He's led this race a lot. He understands that you got to be aggressive to be a winner on a short track. And so I think you'll still hear more out of Kyle Busch before this day's over.
Michael, two things I agree with you on. Matt Kenseth, you think about that 20 car, that thing's been in position to win about 3 or 4 of these first 5 or 6 races here. And you think about Kyle Busch, yeah, he is aggressive. And I think you got to temper that here a little bit more than any place else, or you won't be around at the finish.
$16 laps to halfway. Toyota, Chevy, Toyota, the front 3, then Jeff Gordon, Chevy, and Brad Keselowski has his Ford up into the 5th place. I believe that's the highest a Ford has been today.
Well, Brad Keselowski finished 6th here in the fall, and he took about a 20th place race car and did it. And to me, that was a pivotal race for him going on and winning that championship.
Yeah, because he had never run well here, you know, and everybody said, well, Martinsville, he'll have a big disadvantage when they get to Martinsville. He was able to turn that around the way he did a lot of races at the end of last year.
And remember, that was in a Dodge. He's new to the Ford this season, and he's got the only one of the blue ovals in the top 12 right now. But
yeah, going to the Ford count did not slow the Penske group down whatsoever. 4 top 10s of the 5 races, 2nd in the points.
Joey Logano and Eric Almirola.
Joey and Joey's running 13th. Eric running 14th there. Not a great day for the 22 yet, but he's still on the lead lap and hanging around.
But they did a nice job making repairs to Joey Logano's car after all that. You see all the tape and the bare bond and everything on the front end to keep him on the lead lap and now back in the top 15.
Good bit of bump and bang so far in Martinsville, Virginia. We'll come back with our halfway report, give you an idea of what to look for in this race's second half. And Greg Biffle will get the free pass. Let's show you what happened here. Watch the red car of Ruderman. Up, and did Regan Smith help him around?
Just a little wee bit of help right there. But watch this save. Watch Ruderman. Stays in the gas. Smokes the tires.
Another look at it. Plenty of contact there. Ruderman's along for the ride right now. Around he goes. So we're under caution for the 5th time today.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Chevy Silverado, the one you depend on, the one that lasts. And by Dr. Pepper 10, the manliest low-calorie soda in the history of mankind. Time now for the AT&T Mid-Race Report. Jimmy Johnson, who's won here 7 times, has led for 206 laps. I'm Chris Myers, glad to have you watching with us. Matt Kenseth, your leader moments ago as we cycle through pit stops, has led 2 races this year at the midpoint and lost them both, finishing 37th the Daytona 500 and 35th at Bristol. He does have a win so far this season, though. Darrell, who are you keeping an eye on for the second half?
I can't deny it. Jimmy Johnson got the #1 pit stop. If this thing comes down to a late pit stop, that's going to pay a big dividend for him. The man's got 7 wins here. I think he might make it 8 today.
Let's keep our eye on Kevin Harvick. You saw his footwork inside of that car. He's really being gentle on the brakes, easing the gas down. That could pay off at the end. Just remember, a year ago, people that dominated early fell back late. Maybe Harvick's looming right around the top 5 and can charge to the win.
Michael, I know it's all about Joe Gibbs and Hendrick Motorsports at Martinsville, but Brad Keselowski, he's happy about being second in the points, but he's not happy about not winning yet in 2013, Matt.
Larry Mack, Super G chasing his 8th win here at Martinsville, but Jeff Gordon slid through his box, had to back up, went all the way back to 14th. His car was tight on that last run. They freed him up. Let's see how he does this second half.
Well, the leader at halfway has only won 2 of the last 29 Martinsville races. Jeff Gordon and Denny Hamlin. Remember last year, Chris? Nothing matters till the final restart.
And points leader Dale Earnhardt Jr. has led more laps here than anywhere else, but he's yet to win Martinsville. We'll watch him in the second half. Mike, that's your AT&T Mid-Race Report.
The Gibbs Toyotas restart together on the front row. Kenseth on the outside, Busch on the inside, and Matt Kenseth wins the drag race into turn number 1. Mark Martin in the 3rd Gibbs car caught up high. Johnson and Keselowski come through for 3rd and 4th before Martin settles in line. Now it's Harvick outside of McMurray. Harvick in the 29.
Pretty interesting strategy on that 11 car, Larry. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, 50 laps on those left side tires, but Darian Grubb, the crew chief, told me earlier in the week, you know what? We're going to roll the dice a little bit.
They're going to roll him right here because he's 3 wide going in that corner. That won't work.
Mark Martin was 16th prior to pit stops. He's currently 6th, and they're looking at him from both sides.
That was just a little bit of blocking on Mark's part. He saw McMurray in the 1, tried to close the door, but knew better. I just don't think 2 tires are the way to go today.
It doesn't look like it, Darrell, because right now he almost cannot get out of the way. He's actually got Casey Kane in the 5 and several others bottled up in the outside.
Well, Larry, he wasn't that good. I mean, he wasn't that good with 4 tires, and you just really put him in a box with the 2.
Earnhardt, Newman, and now the 14 of Tony Stewart coming through.
And I can hear the old crew chief now. Just hang in there, hang in there. It'll come to you. It may come to you on the hook, too.
That's not funny. Humorous, yes. Funny, no.
But it's just the truth.
Yeah.
absolutely beat Mark Martin's car to pieces already just after that restart.
Remember what I told you? When your right side has been up, you're racing. When your left side's been up, you're in the way.
Yes, sir.
Kurt Busch through. Here comes Almirola. And Mark just cannot get to the inside. Got to be a tough day for Denny Hamlin, sitting out and watching this. Now, Mark's doing everything he can, Darrell, but it looks like that car just won't drive up off the corner, as will the cars that got 4 tires.
Yeah, but just think about it. He wasn't all that great to start. He got the lucky dog, got some of those cars got wrecked, he got in the position he's in. I would not have jeopardized all that improvement and what he had gained by gambling on 2 tires right now.
Well, we saw what those drivers that got 4 tires after 15 laps at the beginning of the race, what they were able to do.
Something wrong with Carl Edwards.
Whoa, he's got a tire down.
Left rear. He's around. Caution.
Green still out. Green still yellow, yellow, yellow.
Pretty nice job by Danica Patrick not to get into Carl Edwards right there. Stayed off of him and avoided the wreck.
I wonder where Mark Martin's going to come now.
That's twice on the 9.
He's going to be right back where he was earlier in the race, way in the back when he comes to pit road.
The left rear is down, and Edwards tries to gas it. Nothing there.
That's a big fear you have here. Somebody runs in there and hits you in the left rear and you hit it just right with that splitter. It'll cut that tire right down.
He was 19th at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Still there.
They used him up pretty good, tires and all. Pretty good job of just spinning the thing around. Everybody avoided him. Oh, he gets hit on. Marcus Ambrose comes in and comes into the right front, and then Bobby Labonte just slams into the left side of Carl's car, cut his old left rear tire down.
Krista?
Well, obviously, Clint Boyer has had quite a day already. They are back in, and they're making up ground. Matt?
Jeff Gordon says we were absolutely struggling back in traffic. They made a track bar adjustment. His car still absolutely on the tight side.
And as anticipated, Mark Martin couldn't get the pit.
No, he didn't get the left front on.
Yeah, this has went downhill fast.
You know, Larry, it just never fails. Substitute drivers with a different team and different people, spotters, crew chief, really difficult. And on a track like this where it's so intense.
And a bad day goes worse for Mark Martin.
That was probably a whoa, and he thought he said go.
And now he is being held for pitting outside the box. It's a tough break for Mark Martin, held 1 lap as they finally changed that left front, but his right front was outside the pit box when they did.
Another mistake on Mark's part right there. He was supposed to be at the tail end of the longest line. He was up in the middle of the field. He realized at turn 3, backed everybody up trying to get to the back.
Kenseth, the leader, Kyle Busch with Keselowski trying on the outside. He's going to slip into 3rd ahead of Jimmy Johnson. Kevin Harvick as Dale Jr. battles Jamie Mack.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski made that outside work just long enough on those fresh tires to get down in front of Jimmy Johnson.
And Kurt Busch thought you could race here 3 wide.
You can.
You saw him clean off his tires, lock things up and out of the way.
That's what happens to you when you try it, though. I think he's got a tire down.
Stay safe.
Yeah, he's got a left front tire down, DW.
Stay safe.
No caution.
You know, Kurt doesn't know. I don't think he knows that left front's down. I think he thinks he just got built up.
He did this to us as a 22. You got it. I seen it.
Well, Kurt was 3 wide with a couple of different drivers there.
Yeah,
and now he's trying to stay out and not be the caution, but draw a caution flag.
They need it. He didn't know he had a flat left front.
New leader out of turn 2. Kyle Busch passes teammate Matt Kenseth.
Here comes Johnson in that 48, dives to the inside of Keselowski for 3rd. And Harvick's going to try to follow in that 29.
Keselowski gets good drive up off the corner.
Nice run today by the 29 team. Boy, they've been needing something good to happen. They got a little something going today.
Talked to Kevin this morning about how fatherhood had changed him. Not away from the racetrack, but he says the best thing about their young son, Keelan, is I go home, I play with Keelan, I forget all about what happened at the racetrack, and then by Wednesday, I'm ready to go racing again.
It does. Kids have a calming effect on you, particularly with the driver. When he's so focused on what he does, that's all he thinks about. It is a nice distraction. And this little guy's getting bigger. Every week that we see Keelan in the car, he's getting a better grip on her every week.
He likes it.
Yeah.
And that's a proud dad right there.
And they've got everything they got. They've been putting him in motorized everything. I mean, he's going to be driving by the time he's won.
So we were at a function for BB&T this morning, and somebody asked Kevin, is he gonna be a race driver? Kevin goes, I'm teaching him to play golf.
Better teach him to drive a race car, because that's what he knows.
Well, I know another proud new dad has to be Jamie McMurray in that one car. Remember, he was caught up in that wreck on caution 4 at lap 180, had to come to pit road. He's worked his way back toward the top 10, trying to get to the top 5.
Right behind him, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has made a nice recovery. Running in the 7th spot. He was part of the dust-up at lap 180. The big double crash shortly after the restart. And behind him, there in white car is Ryan Newman, running in 8th place, Steve.
And he did pretty solidly inside the top 10, Mike. He just told the team, I started off neutral, but that went away pretty quick. Now I'm too tight.
I think he said he was too tight, but I'm not sure.
Started off neutral and the car went tight on him. Tony Stewart, Newman's boss, in 9th. Co-owner of Stewart Haas Racing. There are their 3 cars. Nice recovery for Danica. 1 lap down. She got one of her laps back. She is 23rd. Running right behind Rudeman and making the pass.
You know, I looked at Tony Stewart in that 14 car. I think we know at least today how he feels about the driver that's running right behind him, Joey Logano, in that 22 car. Joey has now, he's cracked the top 10. See him right there out the back of Tony Stewart's car.
Yeah, they did a nice job in the pits of getting that car patched up there. They got a lot of bare bond on the nose and all, but the thing is running a lot better than it was earlier in the race.
Casey Kane hounding Logano. Kane in 11th. Started 5th. About 4.5 seconds behind the lead. Talk about banged up race cars. Well, Clint Boyer, the right front of his, got pretty torn up there.
Yeah, you can get knocked around here, get beat around, pushed around. You can even get in the wall, but you stay on the lead lap, patch the thing up like Boyer's car is, you still can be very competitive.
Yeah, less than 100 laps ago, Boyer was spinning like a top on the front stretch, and Brian Vickers in that 55. Look at all the damage on that car. Both of them on the lead lap.
Yeah, he was crashed on the backstretch.
These are Martinsville cars. That's the way a Martinsville car is supposed to look.
Your outside front row starter, Marcus Ambrose. He's been doing a bit of 3-wide racing, and he's got the door dings on both sides to prove it, and the right front pretty well torn up. Jeff Gordon trying to rebound. He is in 15th, and the reason he's so far back is coming onto pit road. He slid through the pit stall. You see the official motioning. You've got to go back before you can service that car, and they did. But boy, that's costly for time.
Well, and because he was so far back when that next caution came out, he went ahead and came back to pit road there at lap 256.
And when you get behind, you try to make up time everywhere you can. And sometimes you just overdo it.
Which is what happened to the 11 team and Mark Martin.
Exactly.
Kurt Busch has replaced that tire. He's back on track, but he is 2 laps down. Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson, 1, 2, 3. That's Casey Mears on the left. Now Danica was trying to battle them and get past Bobby Labonte.
This is a battle to be the first driver lap down. Hopefully get that free pass.
Some type of fluid got onto his tires, and he went sliding through turn number 3 and around to bring out the second caution flag of the day.
Mike, one thing as a driver you always worry about when your car's been in a wreck and the team patches it all up and sends you back out. Did they get everything tight? Did he get everything back like it was supposed to be? Looked like he busted a radiator hose or something there.
Truex out of the car, and perhaps this time done for the day. Everybody made pit stops. Kyle Busch came out first. Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski, Jamie McMurray are the Fast Five.
Time for the AT&T Race Break, brought to you by the nation's largest 4G LTE network. Rethink possible. Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers observing the action, and a quick recap as a spectator, at least until Richmond. Denny Hamlin with Mark Martin in his car, and in her first Martinsville race, Danica Patrick caught up with Schrader, bringing out the first caution. A faster pace early. Jimmy Johnson dominating. Kyle Busch led for some laps. And on lap 180, some Michael Waltrip racing drivers caught up in a 10-car wreck.
Yeah, the chain reaction crash happened on two different ends of the racetrack, and every one of those cars got involved in them somehow.
Yeah, including Martin Truex Jr., Clint Boyer, and even Dale Earnhardt Jr., as Darrell and Larry talked about. Those cars repaired, back in the hunt, back on the lead lap, which is important. Michael, so far this season compared to last year, we've had more lead changes and more cautions. In this race, 12 lead changes and the cautions flying with 7 so far, many more recently.
Yeah, and the more laps that wear on, the more cautions you're liable to have, because of the fact these guys are going to get more and more aggressive. We saw early people cutting each other brakes, letting them in line. That's out the window now. If somebody tries to get in a hole and it isn't there, you're going to get hit.
We have not seen Tony Stewart take any action or any issues with blocking. He's worked his way up inside the top 10, 8th, just ahead of Joey Logano. What are you looking for over the next 215 laps?
Well, that's a lot of cars right there getting a lap back. They're waving around. They stayed out. They didn't elect to pit. And with this caution fever that you spoke about, Chris, that's smart. Danica Patrick is going to end up back on the lead lap, along with Mark Martin, who had troubles in the pits. We've seen a lot of speed out of Danica today, and she's overcome being a lap down a couple times, and she's back on the lead lap.
That's your AT&T Race Break, Mike. We have Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, guys trying to win for the first time here, just ahead of 7-time winner Jimmy Johnson.
Well, Casey Mears got the free pass on this caution. That meant that all those drivers that just took the wave around to get a lap back are on tires that are 20 or more laps older than the ones who stopped just now as we get ready to go back to green.
11 cars took the wave around. That's a big, lot of cars.
But most notably, Danica Patrick, Mark Martin, Regan Smith back on the lead lap of those drivers that took it.
This time it's Kyle Busch with a good restart. Keselowski boots Kenseth into the corner. I don't think he liked the speed at which Kenseth came down the front straightaway, so that his teammate would come out of that corner with the lead.
And Jimmy Johnson now is trying to take advantage of it. Right side by side. Looks like he's going to take that third spot away from Keselowski in the 2.
I really just think that Keselowski just really poured this thing down in there, got into the back of Jimmy. Saw the hood, or into the back of Matt. Saw the hood bow up on that 2 car.
And it cost him a spot to Jimmy Johnson. So Johnson now 3rd, Keselowski 4th, McMurray 5th, and Tony Stewart has climbed to 6th.
Can't say enough about Tony Stewart in that 14 car. Got the free pass earlier. Here comes a couple other drivers battling for position. Harvick in the 29, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88, and Logano in the 22.
Yeah, that 88's got speed in it. We know that. They've been on, they kind of been off in the pits. I think they got it together now, though.
This time it's Harvick caught on the high side. He slides in line in front of Casey Kane.
Not on their pit stops, just on their adjustments. They haven't kept up with the track. They look like they've got the car a lot better now.
You're riding with Dale Jr. He's a rocket on new tires as he flashes past Tony Stewart and moves up into 6th.
That's the way the car was early in the race. It was real fast on new tires. Hammond, what's up, bud?
Been down here watching the race from on top of the Hollywood Hotel going into turn 3 and 4, and watching the number 20 car, Matt Kenseth. You got to understand something. He's 0 for 39, guys, when it comes to short track racing. It's been since 2006 in Bristol that he's won a short track race, and his best finish here at Martinsville came way back in 2002. But I do want to point out we got a wreck behind us right here. The 78 car right over my shoulder. Right now, Mike, he just went kind of up in the high groove.
A spin for Kurt Busch at lap 293. And we'll have to look back and see, was there contact with David Gilliland?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Everything was going really well for Kurt, and then he had that flat tire and had to pit on the green and flat left front, and it's kind of all gone downhill from there.
8 caution flags, but the drivers that just took the wave around, Larry, that cements their position for that move. And there's the bump from Gilliland that sent Kurt Busch spinning.
Yeah, now Danica Patrick, Mark Martin, and Regan Smith back on the lead lap. They'll be on pit road, get them 4 fresh tires now.
Back in the race.
Kurt was another driver that took the wave around, but it put him 1 lap down because he was 2 before he did that.
Patrick up to 22nd now. And 24 lead lap cars add Bobby Labonte, who I believe will be the free pass car on this, the 8th caution flag. Boy, Jeff Gordon still trying to recover from overshooting his pit box. 11th right now as they all come on to pit road from Ambrose on back.
I think they just keep working on his car too, Mike. He's just not happy with the car, and they make major adjustments every time he comes in.
Matt?
And still work in progress on the 24. Jeff Gordon said still difficult balance-wise on that machine. Air pressure change as well. And you also saw the 99 of Carl Edwards hit pit road, Mike. They have seen just about everything today. At one point, he thought they even might have a fire inside the car because they were working on different things electrical, Steve.
Matt, 4 tires, the only change for Ryan Newman's 39. Been battling a bit of a tight race car. 4 tires, he's away.
I know Carl Edwards has got to be a frustrated race car driver. I talked to him last night. He said, DW, all I got to do is be patient today. I've got the car to win this race. Wow. Hadn't even been close.
Well, those cars that stopped will restart from 16th on back.
Yeah, pretty much our top 15 all stayed out, but this is how we have such an exciting race as this race gets down toward the end, because with the free pass and with the wave around, I mean, we have 25 drivers on the lead lap right now.
Well, we got 11 back on the lead lap there. Well, they got on the lead lap, but they got their pit stop in now, and they're good to go.
Play Fox Fantasy Auto Racing presented by Ford. Pick your team of 5 drivers each week. Compete for weekly prizes all season long. Sign up today at foxsports.com/fantasy and pick your winning team. The next city in Virginia to the east of Martinsville is Danville, and that was the home of longtime NASCAR racer Wendell Scott, the first African-American driver to win a race in what's now the Sprint Cup Series. A historical marker was unveiled this weekend in his hometown of Danville. Great racer, nominee to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, Wendell Scott.
Definitely think if you looked up the termination in the dictionary, you'd find Wendell Scott's name pretty close to it.
Well, he won a race, and he had, out of the races that he started, he had a lot of great finishes as well. So he made a huge impact on the sport.
He won a Jacksonville, Florida short track race. Initially, I believe Buck Baker was given the trophy. Scoring was rechecked. Scott was declared the winner.
I saw him take the engine out of the race car, put it in the tow truck so they could get to the race. They got to the race. They took the engine out of the tow truck, put it back in the race car, ran the race, took the engine out of the race car, put it back in the tow truck so they could get home.
He was also the '59 Virginia State NASCAR Sportsman Championship and won the track title at Southside Speedway in Richmond, 1959. Moved to the Cup Series in '61. Had 147 top 10s.
On the side of his car where it said Chief Mechanic, you know, they had Herb Neff, all kind of different guys back in the day, Jake Elder, and on windows it had me.
He did an awful lot with a little. Wendell Scott, a true pioneer of NASCAR racing. Nice of him to be honored by the state of Virginia this weekend. 203 laps to go as the pace car dives for safety. Michael?
Hey guys, watch this restart. On that last one, Keselowski got mad at Kenseth for holding up the line so that Kyle can move over. Now Kenseth is on the inside. He's got Jimmy Johnson behind him. Watch him let Kyle go here.
Good point. Let's see who wins the battle down to turn 1. It's going to be Kyle Busch with a little assist from Brad Keselowski. Oh, there goes another grill.
I think that's the grill out of Brad Keselowski's car because he was pushing Kyle Busch down the front straightaway.
But it's over on pit road where the pace car passenger will pick it up and get it out of harm's way.
If Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon had done that kind of a deal last year here, they wouldn't have been in that wreck.
Now that's just a piece of plastic that helps add to the brand identity on that car. It's not a performance part per se. So we continue on with the 2 Toyotas in front of Keselowski's Ford and then 2 Chevrolets.
This is one place where you can get up into somebody's grill, I can tell you.
Right across the wall, right on pit road.
Well, they're grilling out at Martinsville today. What can you say?
There's not many Ford grills left on the racetrack.
There's some race fan at home saying, hey, honey, they're throwing grills out on the track at Martinsville.
Harvick Logano chasing Tony Stewart off into the corner, side by side for 9th.
And Brian Vickers in that 55 car. He's working his way back toward the top 10. Brian Vickers will be in the 11 car starting at Texas until Denny Hamlin returns.
I'm not real sure what that was all about. Keselowski just pulled over and let Jimmy Johnson go. I guess he thought Jimmy was quite a bit faster than he was, but he just moved over and let Jimmy go by.
Darrell, it appears those Hendrick Chevrolets, both Johnson's and Earnhardt's, have been really quick on new tires. Keselowski's Ford seems to be better than the competition when we get a long run.
Yeah, well, you're right about that, Mike. Here's something I've noticed. The 48 seems to be falling behind. The two Gibbs cars, the 20 and the 18, they have gotten better. Jimmy has stayed about the same, hadn't kept up with the racetrack, and now he's falling behind.
Yeah, Kyle Busch and his teammate Matt Kenseth, right now they seem to be good short run and long run.
Exactly there.
Let's check with Steve.
Yeah, I just want to respond to DW. DW, Jimmy said the car's a little snug. I don't have much to complain about. It's driving pretty well. And Chad Canal said, hey, we made an adjustment earlier that we're going to undo for the end of this race.
Well, you want to, you know, being a little snug is okay. It's a lot easier to drive a car that's a little snug than it's one with the back end hanging out. So maybe they're just kind of getting him in a comfort zone and they got something laid up for the finish.
I've been watching Greg Biffle in this 16 car. He got the free pass on our 5th caution back at lap 241. He's been riding that second groove and they have been beating his left door to death.
That's Almirola to the inside.
Sometimes I think these guys can hear us, you know, on their telecast.
Ooh, there you go.
We start talking about them beating and banging, and they do. And we talk about Jimmy Johnson maybe falling a little behind, and he says, oh, no, I'm not. Watch this. So it's interesting how it ebbs and flows.
25 cars on the lead lap, back to Bobby Labonte. And then further group 1 lap down. Danica battling Biffle there, and that's for 21st. And the teammates trade places.
Your turn.
Matt Kenseth up front. Now, he's led 43 laps today, and that's, like I said, he'd only led 73 laps in his prior almost 30 appearances at Martinsville. So banner day for Matt Kenseth at Martinsville.
Right now, Kyle Busch's problem, you're riding with him. Jimmy Johnson in that 48, he's going to take that second spot away from Kyle.
But you know what? A smart driver here, a guy that does well here, knows when he's overdriving his car. And if you're overdriving your car with over 200 laps, go right at 200 laps to go, you know you can't make it to the end. So you've got to let somebody that's hammering on your rear bumper, you got to let them go and save a little bit. That's just smart Martinsville racing.
Jeff Burton started deep in the field, 29th, but he's been around the top 15 most of the day. Krista, currently 13th.
That's right, Mike. Another smart Martinsville racer. You know, a former winner here. He said that was so special, the Virginia native, that day that he won at this track. He said it's one of the hardest tracks, if not the hardest track NASCAR goes to. And he said the key to surviving Martinsville, you have to embrace it.
Gotta love the nose of that race car. Yep. It's got that Martinsville look about it.
You go east from Danville, Wendell Scott's hometown. It's not far before you get to South Boston. That's where the Burtons are from. That makes this a home game for Jeff Burton, whose nephew Jeb was on the pole yesterday for the Truck Series race.
Drove a whale of a race. I know he had a little issue with the Ron Hornaday one time there in the race, but Jeb drove a beautiful race yesterday. Came home 3rd. A lot of young guys. Bubba Wallace, Darrell Wallace Jr., he had a great finish. Chase Elliott had a great finish. A lot of young talent in that Truck Series.
And Jeff's son Harrison, quite a young racer as well.
But one of the things that discipline. That is a huge word that you have to keep in your mind here. You have to discipline yourself to take care of the car, not get in fights and pushing around with people and get your car all bent up. You got to really have good discipline here.
I like what Danica Patrick is doing since she got spun by Kenny Schrader early. She's found her groove, worked her way back up onto the lead lap, Matt.
One big issue she had, Mike, earlier in the race, spotter communication trouble. They fixed that, and now she's doing exactly what Tony Gibson told her to do. He instructed to just log laps. We've got to learn, and you're only going to learn if you run all 500 laps. So put a lot of effort into this event. Sim work. She went down to Little Rockingham, which is a racetrack simulating this racetrack. But Tony told me the biggest thing that impressed him about Danica here at Martinsville is her rhythm. She gets into a very nice rhythm, very easy on the car. But he said one thing she's going to learn about the most, how to get around here with traffic.
Well, she's just done something that a lot of this garage area wasn't sure could happen. She's moved into the top 20 here at one of the toughest tracks she will face in her rookie season.
And she's not done yet. I mean, she's got a pretty fast race car. I've watched her a number of times. She's doing a great job today.
Just ahead of her is this battle for 17th. Casey Mears, Carl Edwards, side by side. Mears moving up. He started back with Danica. They've run a couple of positions apart or nose to tail most of this race.
What do you think about Carl? I mean, he's spun out over here with a flat tire, and he's fighting his way back up into the top 15.
Well, we talked about Casey Mears earlier in that 13 car and his race team. Back-to-back 15th place finishes at Bristol and Auto Club Speedway. And right now, working on another one. But how about two old buddies here? Joey Logano in the 22, Tony Stewart in the 14.
But did you see what Tony did? I mean, that was 2 weeks ago for Tony Stewart. I said this earlier today. Tony Stewart will threaten to whip your butt on Sunday, and he'll take you out and buy you dinner on Monday night. That's just the way he is. He's a passionate race car driver. Got a lot of energy built up in that guy. Krista.
Well, on that subject, it was asked this week, you know, will you teach Joey a lesson? Tony said that's 2 weeks ago. I'm on Martinsville this week. In fact, during the off week, I went on vacation in Georgia. No TV, no cell phone. That's the way I like it. I didn't have to pay attention to the news.
You know he doesn't have a very good memory because he said he had never blocked.
And then he said he whipped Joey's butt or something like that. The race car drivers are America's best athletes at two things: living in the moment and holding grudges.
Yeah, well, you don't forget. And I mean, if they got into a shoving match now, obviously all that would come back up. But they didn't. They raced each other as professionals.
Well, I think the biggest thing Tony Stewart, that 14, better worry about is getting his performance straightened out. One top 10 finish, came in here 22nd in the points.
Matt Kenseth, your leader by half a second after 323 laps in the STP Gas Booster 500.
Going to Martinsville, I love it. It seems like emotions are higher on short tracks, but you get frustrated on big tracks too.
No matter who you are out there, whether you're first or last, you're going to have fenders with marks on them. So fight the urge to retaliate when things happen.
It's a traffic jam, and you got to be patient. You got to get to your destination. That's victory lane. It's 500 laps of 100% focus, and that makes it a difficult race. But to me, that's what makes it a fun race.
And one of the greatest parts of anger management is getting lots of positive reinforcement from your spotters.
Green, all good. Really good. Just take care of it, man. You look good. All good, man. Keep doing it just like you're doing it. Nice and patient right there. Doing good. Just nice and straight. Very nice, my man. Good job, bud. Good. You're really doing a good job. We're doing great. That's a good-looking lap. Just like that, man. You're doing great. Keep it up.
You've got to keep it up for another 166 laps.
That definitely brought back some memories there. I've got to say, of all the racetracks we go to, I would find myself being more of a cheerleader here than anywhere else.
I don't understand. I always had to do that with forehamming. You know, you're doing good, buddy. Keep it up.
There are the spotters just one floor above our announce booth and toward turn number 1. Keeping in touch with their drivers and crew chiefs. As they work around the track, they now call the paperclip. Casey Kane, Jamie Mack, 5th place. Brian Vickers, Kevin Harvick, 7th place.
I had a lady on Twitter ask me why we call it the paperclip. I said, just go get you one and lay it down on the table and look at it. And that's what Martinsville looks like.
Well, look at these new 6th generation NASCAR Sprint Cup cars. Ford, Chevys, Toyotas. Boy, they can take a beating, and some of them really have today.
But we still have 40 of the 43 drivers that took the green flag out on this racetrack now with about 160 laps to go.
That's right, Larry. Add that Martin Truex Jr. has come back on track despite being more than 100 laps down. He wants to make it the checkered flag in this one. Steve?
Mike, as you guys said, great job of fighting back by Brian Vickers. He says, I can back up the corners pretty good. I can roll the center with the best of them. I just need a little more drive off.
And that's what these drivers, they've been hunting all weekend long here, is trying to get that 850 plus horsepower hooked up with a really low gear in these race cars.
Yeah, just a little information. The 88 says he's spinning his tires off the corner, which is what we're hearing. The 24 says it won't turn when he goes back to the throttle, so therefore he's a little tight in the center. 18 is a little too free right now for his liking, and the 2 car is really, really bad tight.
Anybody happy besides Matt Kenseth, who's out in the lead by 0.7 of a second?
Jimmy Johnson might be all right.
You know, I was talking to Jamie McMurray yesterday afternoon, and he said there's such a tremendous difference between 50 laps into the run and then after that. He said you can either be tight at the beginning and then be good at the end, or if you're good at the beginning, you're not going to be good at the end of the run. So I think what you're hearing over the radio, the chat from the drivers, they're just faced with that delta of it going from tight to loose or loose to tight.
And I think, Michael, that's what's been going on with Dale Earnhardt Jr. We're about 60 to 65 laps into the run, and Darrell has well pointed out, it just seems like the deeper we get into a run, that he starts losing grip, talking about spinning those rear tires off the corner.
Yeah, you see him right here now. Ryan Newman in the 39, Jeff Burton back there in the 31. They've caught up to Junior, and he's basically holding them up. He just seems to fall off more than some of the others do on the longer run.
That's for 12th place on back. Riding with Casey Mears. He's climbed to 15th. Tail end of that group.
Well, and think about this. The leaders are going down the back. They're at the back, middle of the back now. And there goes Junior. He's a half lap down right now.
Tell you who's got a car on the long run that's awfully good. Casey Kane in that 5. We just talked about him as he went by Jamie McMurray for 5th. Now he's working all over Keselowski for 4th.
Keselowski just not racing anybody, Larry. I've seen him a number of times. I'm not sure if he's having some brake issues or he just doesn't want to race right now, but he's pulled over and let a number of guys go by.
Jeff Gordon just passed the 29 of Kevin Harvick for 9th place. I asked Harvick this morning, how will we know if you've got a car capable of winning? He says, tune in about lap 450.
Oh, you mean where did he come from?
The closer.
The closer.
But just remember, Jeff Gordon, they kept making pit stops. Every time the caution came out, he has about 15 to 18 lap fresher tires than all these drivers he's racing right now, which would include Kevin Harvick.
But Larry, it doesn't, watching the lap times, it doesn't seem to be really paying any dividends for him. He's breaking pretty much even with the leaders, but no real advantage.
Traffic about to be a factor for Matt Kenseth. He's getting into a big knot of traffic. That includes Nemechek, Wise, Stenhouse,
look
and
out.
Kurt Busch very slow down the front straightaway.
Well, the 87 got in Matt's way, and Matt poked him there and about spun him out. And that broke his momentum and let Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch catch up to the back of him.
Now he'll duck underneath Josh Wise.
I mean, there's one thing, Mike, that these guys tell me about this car. Even on a track like this, the closing rate is much quicker than the old car was. This car is so fast, it catches up with slower cars a lot quicker than the old car did.
Kurt Busch is now slowed to where he may have to hit pit road.
I thought he was coming to pit road in that 78 car that time right there, but he stayed on the racetrack.
Yeah, he's going real slow here, Larry. It looks like the thing is just barely running. He almost got run over by Jeff Gordon right there.
He's 2 laps down right now, back in the 30th position.
It was all going so well for him. He was running well, and then all of a sudden he had that left front go down, and he hadn't been able to recover. And now it looks like he's headed to the pits.
I believe he's going to the garage area, Darrell. He's going to make that left turn and just go right to the garage.
So Kurt Busch to the garage with 150 laps to go.
And they have had some great top 5 finishes a couple of weeks in a row.
Matt Kenseth pulls up on David Stremme, trying to put the number 32 laps down. Wow. That's his Martinsville history. He's led more laps today than in his first 26 starts here combined.
Well, just think about it. We said he's been driving a Ford ever since he's been in Cup. Ford hadn't won here since 2002. So, you know, a lot of times you always wonder, is it the driver or is it the car? We can look at the 11 and ask that same question. And we can look at Matt and say, well, you know, Matt's a pretty good driver here at Martinsville. Hadn't been in the past, but he's gotten that 20 car and he is.
Matt?
And if you're judging by the trend so far, guys, during the race, Kenseth told his team that it takes about 50 to 60 laps for his car to really come in. It's a tick on the free side now, but early in the run, it's too tight. He has to wait on it. They're hoping they don't get a short run at the end of the race.
Yeah, that's the downside to having a car that's good on the long run. If we get into these late cautions where we have, you know, 5, 10, 15 lap spurts, that can really hurt you.
Of our last 8 spring races here, 6 of them we had a caution within the last 25 laps. There's that short run.
Jeff Burton, Ryan Newman, 12th and 13th. Now, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has fallen back to 20th place, Matt.
Mike, his car just goes back and forth almost like on a razor blade. Back on lap 243, his car was tight on entry, tight through the center. They made some adjustments. Now it's a handful. Balance has gone to the free side.
Now just watch him. He cannot get off the corner without the back of the car. Even coming off turn 4, the car's sideways at the start-finish line. No rear grip.
Yeah, and we're about 40 laps away from what I think if we stay green, these drivers would start hitting pit road for green flag stops.
And Earnhardt's last lap was about 1 second slower than race leader Matt Kenseth's. 143 laps to go.
Plenty more to come right here on NASCAR on Fox.
We're under caution for Ryan Newman. More on that in a moment. Pit stop, Steve.
Jimmy Johnson had 2 words, tight center. They just made a chassis adjustment and 4 tires, Mike.
Race off pit road, narrowly Johnson.
What
over
a
Kenseth and Busch.
What a bottleneck down there in that corner. Everybody leaving pit road.
I tell you, that was a heck of a show just on pit road right there with these guys knowing where those timing lines are and speeding up right before they get to it.
Ryan Newman cut down a right front tire, drove around the outside, could not get to pit road, stopped on the racetrack, drawing the caution flag. NASCAR judged that his stoppage was deliberate to get a caution, and they have held Ryan Newman for a 3-lap penalty.
The minute the caution came out is when he drove away.
Yeah, he could have turned in. There was a couple of gaps in there. He could have turned in. They saw that too. So unfortunate for Ryan, but that's the price you pay.
A break for Newman. Let's go to Chris Myers for highlights.
Well, Mike, as we pointed out, the first half of this race dominated by Jimmy Johnson, leading 206 laps total. But Matt Kenseth, and actually Joe Gibbs Racing, here he is passing Jimmy for the lead. They've taken over in the second half, also with Kyle Busch. Carl Edwards, a tire problem. He was running 21st at the time, bringing out one of the caution flags. And in the pits, the 11 car of Denny Hamlin, Mark Martin.
Yeah, they just dropped the jack, and that's the driver's sign to go, and Mark went, and they weren't done with the service yet.
Tight racing off the restart.
We saw Matt Kenseth sort of drag his feet so his teammate could get the lead. Brad Keselowski took offense to that and ran into the back of Matt.
135 laps to go. Jimmy Johnson leading Matt Kenseth and Kyle Busch. Those are the 3 guys who have dominated. But Casey Kane, whose 2 worst finishes the last few years have been at this track, although he has a short track win at Bristol, he currently is running 4th. As you're watching NASCAR on Fox from Martinsville, Virginia.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Sprint. Millions of fans, one family. Only Sprint can feed them all. Join the family at sprint.com/speed.
Let's have an outside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Kyle Busch has the fastest lap of this race. Set back at lap 302. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with truly unlimited data from Sprint. No metering, no throttling, no overages on the Sprint network. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. 6 cars took the wave around to gain back a lap as we'll get ready for the restart with Johnson and Kenseth out front. 24 lead lap cars. 9 caution flags now for 62 laps.
There's a car, the 55 car, Brian Vickers. The whole left side of his car is gone. Got to be getting a lot of fumes up in that thing, but he is running 5th. They have done a whale of a job recovering. And look at it, no right front fender, no left rear quarter panel. He's digging, baby.
I just don't think we can say enough about the job that Brian Vickers does, especially just running a partial schedule. This is only his 2nd race of 2013 to run this Generation 6 car.
He's going to get several more starts because he'll be in the 11 starting next week for Denny Hamlin as Mark Martin returns to the 55. Hendrick Chevy against Gibbs Toyota. Between them, they have led all but 2 laps today. Those 2 teams, 3 drivers, Johnson, Kenseth, and Kyle Busch, have led all but 2 laps so far.
We're going to go to a little faster track next Saturday night, Texas Motor Speedway.
Big boy racing down there. Fast.
Green flag. Johnson's on it. And Jimmy will hold the lead to turn 1 with Kenseth slotting in. And here comes Kane. Trying the outside.
They're not stay out there very long, and he didn't. He got right to the bottom.
Now Keselowski with no way to get to the inside. Can he move up?
It's almost like these drivers know if you're going to make that second groove work, you better do it on fresh tires and do it quickly.
Yeah, what you're hoping is that there'll be a gap. That maybe if you get out there and pass somebody, you got a gap you can fall down into, but it doesn't happen that way very often. What I don't like about it is you stand such a huge chance of getting knocked up out of the groove or your tire cut down.
Well, they just stacked up back there, way back in the pack with Danica Patrick in the 10, Mark Martin, Paul Menard. They were all over the racetrack.
Vickers, Keselowski, Boyer. And Jeff Gordon. Now watch this as Mark Martin on the inside gets into Dale Jr.
Well, he's
who
being
slides
shoved
up into Danica.
Menard is into the back of Mark, and he's pushing Mark into the back of Dale Jr. And then it gets really ugly because Menard really gets into the side of the 11 of Mark Martin. I was surprised he didn't cut his old tire down.
Mark didn't have a whole lot of choice there, did he?
Had to give, Uncle.
Danica had made some nice gains, but she's now lost about 8 or 9 spots, and it's still going. Teammates Boyer and Vickers, and now Keselowski's on the inside, the preferred lane. Activates his left turn signal and makes the pass.
Well, we're getting to that point. We got 125 laps to go. Right now, you want to start establishing yourself as one of the guys to beat or to be run up front. So if you got it, use it.
And I think one of those guys, we were just riding with him a minute ago, Jeff Gordon in that 24 car, now back up inside the top 10, running 7th right now. You're riding with him here through 3 and 4.
And you get knocked around a lot like Brian Vickers did there. You get knocked around, you kind of get out of your rhythm, and you got to get back in line and get going again to pick up those spots you lost.
Harvick trying to regain ground. He is 10th. Vickers is 9th.
That's the other problem with having a car that's pretty good on a long run. You're a sitting duck on a short run. People will run all over you.
Which is, I think, the report we got a little bit of concern about Matt Kenseth if we get that short run at the end of the race, because he's got a problem right now with Casey Kane and that 5 all over his rear bumper.
Turn 1, David Stremme gave a bump to Kenny Schrader and passed him, and down in turn 1, Schrader just turned right and sent Stremme up the racetrack. Stremme's number 30 went all the way to the back.
Don't mess with Kenny Schrader, do you?
Casey Kane, a little rub to Matt Kenseth, who steps aside. Let's see what happened between Schrader's 32 and Stremme's number 30. Right there.
Well, Kenny got in there a little too hot and got up into the side of the 30 car there at Stremme. So I give that one to Kenny.
It was a payback for what happened on the corner before.
You know, we talked about Clint Boyer before the race even started. Fastest in both practices yesterday in that 15 car, spinning like a top before the halfway point here on the front straightaway, and now he's sitting there in the 4th position.
Krista?
Well, the magic number for Clint Boyer today was 450. That was the lap crew chief Brian Patty wanted him to get to, keeping the fenders on his car. They haven't exactly done that today, as we talked about the damage they had earlier, but they're right back in the thick of things. You better believe if Clint Boyer is in position with 50 laps to go, he's going for it all.
Remember 1 year ago on the final restart, he went for it all from row 2 and cleaned out the front row.
Listen to these first cars, 2003, 2004, 2003, 2004 on those first 4 cars.
Wow. That's the reason they may have to do the bump and run or got up and dump.
Got to figure out a way to get by, man.
And all I'm pointing out, Darrell, is when it's time to get it done, if Boyer is close, he'll do everything he can to try to win it.
He's got that short track mentality.
Well, when we look at our top 5 drivers right now, we've had 5 races with 5 different winners. The one driver that's in the top 5 that's not been to victory lane yet this year, Clint Boyer in that 15.
.118 laps to go with Jimmy Johnson leading at Martinsville. Laps away from a winner in Martinsville, Virginia. Jimmy Johnson has now led 237 laps. That's nearly half the race in total. Matt Kenseth led 96, Kyle Busch 56. Nobody else more than 1.
I think Jimmy kind of fell off the pace there for a little while, and Chad said, we made an adjustment. We're going to fix it and put it back like it was, and now he's leading the race again.
Clint Boyer, Matt Kenseth, 3rd place. Boyer moving up.
I tell you, Boyer's going somewhere, Larry. That car is fast.
Larry, if we don't see a caution, have these drivers made their last trip to pit road?
Well, Mike, we pitted at lap 363, which was 137 laps to go. I think with cautions and the race pace slowing down a little bit like it has, I think everyone can make it. Should we go caution-free? But I wouldn't put a lot of stock in that.
I was going to say, why are you worrying yourself about that? Because we know we're going to have another caution.
There's plenty of fuel. But is there enough patience? Some of the things we've seen, including Joey Logano and Eric Almirola, with this little "excuse me, pardon me."
And then Almirola, he takes exception to it. He goes off into turn 3 here, and he just lets Mr. Logano know, I didn't like that very much. I'm going to get that, boy.
And makes the pass.
And we were getting a report that Joey Logano was actually losing some power in that 22 car. Steve.
Yeah, Larry Mack, he's gone to his backup battery, but he's also losing power in that backup battery. So he has switched, but he's continuing to lose power in that 22.
Yeah, in most of these cars, the drivers, they carry 2 batteries, and you just have a switch where you go from battery 1 to the backup battery or battery 2.
Well, he definitely picked the pace back up because he was falling back pretty quickly there, but now he's picked the pace back up, and he's going in the right direction again.
Danica Patrick is the leading rookie in this race. Ricky Stenhouse is 2 laps down in 30th. Josh Wise is 10 laps back. And Patrick has fought her way to stay on and get back on and stay on the lead lap here. She's 21st.
Yeah, she's battling Regan Smith for that 20th spot. I think if she could run all the laps and finish top 20, that'd be huge for her first start here at Martinsville.
Yeah, she started in the back. They changed the engines. They started in the back. She's had issues on and off today, but doing a great job here at Martinsville. You ask any driver down there, one of the toughest racetracks you'll go to.
Jeff Gordon and Kyle Busch, 5th and 6th. 3 seconds off the lead.
Well, Gordon's got his car back where it was early in the race. He's starting to make some good laps. I've been watching his lap times. That's a guy to keep an eye on. He's running the same speed as the leader right now.
And Darrell, we were talking about him earlier, and we know he's been back in the pack. I don't see a mark on that race car.
Oh no, he'll save that for the very end.
Matt.
And Alan Gutchison told me this morning the one big thing about Gordon here at Martinsville, he's so patient. If he doesn't have the car and the feel he's looking for now, he'll be patient enough till we can get it there. That's what they've done. Gordon says the last adjustments have really helped the car. It's still a little bit on the tight side, but more manageable.
Let me see, Larry. How many laps has he finished here?
I don't know how many he's finished, but he's always been running at the end.
But
no
he's finished,
DNFs.
yeah, no DNFs.
Gordon's last short track win was right here 7.5 years ago. That's mainly because his teammate Jimmy Johnson has been so strong here, scoring 6 victories since that last one by Gordon. Johnson up 7/10 on his Hendrick Chevy teammate Casey Kane now, with Toyota's 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 97 laps to run.
You look at Casey Kane, set on the pole for this race a year ago and had engine failure, and it just seems like Jimmy Johnson catching these drivers that are 1 or more laps down. Casey Kane is slowly chipping away at that lead.
Their lap time's pretty similar over the last 10 laps or so. Kane set his fastest lap of the race just about 25 laps ago.
But Jimmy's car is back like it was middle of the race, where he's really consistent now. He's not, he's fast and he's running fast laps.
How about Matt Kenseth, Matt?
Mike, the big constant over the previous 400 laps, on a long run, his car was a tick on the free side, but not bad. Now Matt telling his team he has used up his tires on this run. He's absolutely spinning those tires on exit, and his car isn't much better across the center.
Well, Mike, you pretty much teed me up a while ago. You know, unless we get a caution, which we truly believe we will, you've kind of got what you've got right now with about 94 laps to go.
Yeah, in the last 11 races here, we've had 5 green-white checkers gone into overtime.
Well, cautions will breed cautions, and especially when it gets down to the end of the day on a short track.
Wide open spaces and fast racing in Texas next Saturday night in prime time. NASCAR on Fox.
Get up on that pony and ride next Saturday night.
No telling how fast these Generation 6 cars will be there.
Today you're enjoying the STP Gas Booster 500, which has 92 laps to go in Martinsville, Virginia. Gordon looking, and Busch gives him room, just enough.
Got a car slow off turn 4 here.
Travis Quapple
and got a tire down, I think.
Well, that's actually a Rudeman in the 83.
See if he can make it to pit road. The right front's down, a lot like what Ryan Newman was.
Got a little bit of a gap coming up, Darrell. He should be able to get down behind Marcus Ambrose there. He's going to jump down there.
And that's what got Ryan Newman the penalty, because there was a gap about like that he probably could have taken advantage of, and that got NASCAR's eye.
I don't think Rudeman wants to stop on the racetrack this spring.
I'm thinking not. I think Rudeman would get out and push it around if he had to this year.
Based on what happened a year ago.
Oh my gosh, poor guy.
Danica Patrick just passed Dale Jr. down in turns 1 and 2. He's going to try to return the favor up in 3 and 4.
Danica's car is really good right now. She's made a lot of good passes. She's closing up on Paul Menard here for another spot. It's looking good.
Yeah, right there off of 4, you can see her car drive straight off the corner, and you can see the back of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car, just like it's been reported, spinning those tires under acceleration.
He can't, Jr. can't go anywhere. That car is spinning the wheels here at the start-finish line.
That young lady is 18th, and she's going after Paul Menard. Having quite a day here, and Menard gives her just enough room.
Well, watch it. The car accelerates so well off the corner, and then she really does drive hard down into turn 3.
All right, move the number 10 up to 17th on your scorecard, with Jimmy Johnson leading teammate Casey Kane by 9/10 of a second. Beautiful, scenic South Central Virginia. Martinsville, the former textile and furniture manufacturing capital of the state, now plays host to the Sprint Cup Series twice a year. Great place to come see a race. Kind of neighborhood atmosphere, great hot dogs, flowers in bloom. It's not just about supper time, but it's getting close to the checkered flag for Jimmy Johnson, 77 laps away, as he leads Casey Kane by 6/10 of a second. Clint Boyer another second down, and now Ryan Newman has cut down another right front tire. This time maybe he'll make it to pit road. See if he can slot in here.
Come on now, come on.
He bounced that thing off the wall pretty hard coming out of turn 4 when that tire let go.
Nice job of Landon Castle to jam on the brakes to miss him. so Newman could get to pit road.
You better believe he was going to get to pit road that time, one way or the other.
Yeah, I think if he got hit, I think he'd have said, well, that's what I was trying to avoid, you know, but he made it fun.
Jimmy Johnson about to put his teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. one lap down.
I just can't believe how bad Junior's car has gotten. I mean, he just cannot go anywhere.
Well, while all these drivers are fighting, Jimmy Johnson in that 48 would continue to talk about Casey Kane in that 5 with roughly 75 laps to go. Just right there, a couple of cars behind him.
He doesn't get through the traffic quite as good as Jimmy does. I guess maybe people see Jimmy, they know it's him, they know he's fast, but Casey has a little more trouble getting through traffic.
The lowest on the scoring pylon that Jimmy Johnson has been all day. 4th place.
It'd be pretty amazing to come here. Max points. I love it. Chad Knaus used that term some time ago, max points. Lead the most laps, win the pole, set a new track record, and then go out and dominate and win the race. That's not only max points, that's a max weekend.
Car owner Rick Hendrick 2 nights ago down at the Barrett-Jackson auction donated $1 million to win the right to buy the first convertible 2014 Corvette off the production line, and that entire million went to a cancer institute in Detroit.
Been a nice day to drive that thing up here.
Well done.
Sunny, pretty afternoon.
And right here in the spring of 1984 is where he got the first of the 210 wins that he has as a car owner.
That's right, that was Jeff Bodine at the wheel. Between Rick Hendrick and Joe Gibbs, they've won 17 of the last 22 Martinsville races, and the only other drivers to even lead a lap today besides their 7 cars, Travis Kvapil and Marcus Ambrose, each led a lap. Down to the leaders pit and Steve.
Mike, Chad Knaus just said to Jimmy Johnson, give me some quick feedback on your race car. He says it's starting to get a little bit snug, but it feels good.
But it's starting to burn that fuel load off. We're about halfway through the run, and you're starting to gain some nose weight, so that's certainly going to make that car where it doesn't turn quite as good.
Yeah, that's what happens in the long run. You wear, you know, the right front tire, it builds up the most. You burn off fuel, you get more nose weight, and the car does get a little tight, but that's not a bad thing at this point in a run.
Dale Jr. having an off day, but 3 of the 4 Hendrick Chevys are in 3 of the first 4 spots. Let's go back and renew an old battle. Joey Logano and Eric Almirola. This is not tape from earlier. This happened a lap ago.
I think it's just amazing how it seems like everybody. Joey must have a sign on his car, "Hit me," because it seems like everybody's out to get him.
Was it Tony or Denny that said that Joey ought to have a bullseye in his car for the next 2 months or so?
Yeah, well, the list keeps growing. I will say that.
But Darrell, I think you were impressed. You said it the other day in practice. He said this week, I'm not going to back down to these guys.
He can't, Larry. This is a statement period in his career. He's got to. He's been shoved around. He's a young kid. Came in with a lot of fanfare. People expected great things out of him. Hadn't worked out. Goes to a team where has a teammate that thinks a lot of him. Brad Keselowski really thinks a lot of Joey. That's different than what he had at Gibbs. I think this kid right now is trying to make a statement.
21st right now, driving for Roger Penske. Interesting day for Danica Patrick. She qualified 32nd. She had to start last due to the engine change, and look, my stock portfolio looked like that. She got turned around by Kenny Schrader, and that moved her back to this position. And then from 2 laps down, they took a free pass. They took a wave around, got back up into the top 20, currently 17th, and the highest placed of the 3 rookies in today's race.
And
nice job.
If you look at her car, I mean, it has very little, if any, damage on it. I mean, she's kept her nose clean all day and done a really, really nice job.
And her lap times are similar to what some of the drivers in the top 10 are running right now.
That is a car. Her car does seem to run well over the long haul.
Now, Jimmy Johnson has to work the lap traffic before anybody else. Now, he's just in front of Dale Jr. There's Landon Castle. Whoa.
Well, that's when you have a dominant car. You see it right here. To get up on the curb, when you do, that's going to shoot the 33 of Castle right over into. He's able to stay off of him. Nice job by Castle, actually.
Third place, Jeff Gordon going after Clint Boyer.
That's the guy that's closing, that 24 car. He keeps gaining on it.
And his car seems to be really good on the long run.
And with that pass, that puts Hendricks Chevrolet's 1, 2, 3.
And that probably puts Rick Hendrick saying, I remember where we were here last year.
Yes.
I was trying to get number 200.
I thought so close.
Took the final restart in first and second position. Neither car came out of turn 1. We're going to go side by side with 60 laps to go. You're watching NASCAR on Fox. Wow, the things that happen in Martinsville when you get down into double-digit laps to go. Jeff Gordon has come on, and he's just passed Casey Kane to move up into second place. His laps are 0.3 of a second faster than race leader Jimmy Johnson's. Big Daddy's closing in.
Yeah, I think if he catches Jimmy Johnson, it's going to be no contest right now based on what the scoring monitor's showing us.
Casey Kane to third. Clint Boyer, Kyle Busch the top 5. Kenseth, McMurray, Vickers, Keselowski, and Harvick. There are 18 cars on the lead lap with 53 to go.
See, that's a perfect Martinsville strategy for Jeff Gordon. You work on your car, you get behind, you catch up, you make changes, you figure out things so you're right where he is right now.
Brian Vickers around in turn 2, and caution is out.
He's got a left rear down, I think, as I saw the car spin around.
10th caution flag of the day. Alan Gustafson, nope, not happy. Vickers was 8th.
Yeah, he was running great. I don't know how he got his left rear tire cut down, but he must have made contact with someone.
Well, this is huge. With 50 laps to go roughly, all drivers will be on pit road. 4 tires. This is where a lot is on the shoulders of those pit crews.
Like that number 1 pit box.
Now that tire's down by the time Kurt Busch and Dave Blaney come into view.
You just can't hang on to one of these things when the left rear's down on them.
Yeah, we didn't find any apparent contact.
Well, that time we know he had a lot of contact.
Well, that's true.
He doesn't even have a left rear quarter panel on it.
Paul Menard will get the free pass for the second time today, and Larry, it all turns into the hands of the crew chiefs and pit crews once again.
And we've seen a few mistakes. I mean, we saw Jeff Gordon earlier in the race slide through his pit box. We saw what happened to Mark Martin in the 11 team. So, I mean, you know, this is the money stop right here.
See, I don't think Jeff Gordon's going to be good shape here. His car is good on the long run. We just saw that. I don't know about on the short haul, though.
Brian Vickers stays on the racetrack trying not to lose more than the 1 lap he's just gone down. Pits will be open this time. What do you do?
Well, no question. You come in and you have a solid stop changing 4 tires. That caution was a huge break for Danica Patrick and Mark Martin especially. They wasn't far from being lapped.
Nope. They stay on the lead lap. Krista?
Casey Kane saying his car got a little too tight off of the turns late in that run. They're going to make a slight adjustment. They had their best stop of the day on the last stop. Meanwhile, Clint Boyer not planning on making any adjustments. He said his car got a lot better as the run went along. Matt?
And Jeff Gordon making a chassis adjustment. The call on this stop, only half the adjustment, though, they made in the last time. Gordon said his car is really good. Steve?
Matt, Jimmy Johnson saying his car is just a little bit tight. He said, I'm using my brakes too much. They do make a chassis adjustment, and he will get 4 tires and some Sunoco fuel.
Brad Keselowski had trouble getting in his box and had to back up. That's going to hurt.
Darrell, you called it, though, that number 1 pit box. It just pays off every time. Clint Boyer in the 15, his crew had a great pit stop, but he was trying to get out as drivers were still coming in.
Boyer must be right in one of those areas because he flew into his pit.
You see Keselowski not even in the top 10. Let's figure out what happens as he comes in, locks it up. And the official's saying no. The right front tire is on the line. That's outside the box. You got to back him up.
Boy, I want to see that again.
I didn't see that. I did not see that.
No, sir.
The official was right in front of it.
I think he
had a view down that line. Well, let's show you. See, there's the nose of the car. The nose of the car is on the line. Not sure about the right front tire.
That's way too close. I don't think that was a good call.
Yeah, I don't like. In fact, he was calling it before he even got around to the right front.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Larry, the ref, you're in or you're out of bounds. It's the referee's call.
Oh,
it's
I know
a judgment call.
It doesn't make it right, though. Doesn't make it right.
What about that ball game last night when they said it was, I mean, Louisville won, but that call on they tied him up. Woohoo!
They're looking at the same thing that we're looking at right now. The good thing is they have an overhead cam that they can look straight down.
Who's on the line?
So we're under caution at 47 to go, and a very tough break for Brad Keselowski, who comes out of the pits, let's see, unofficially 11th right now.
Mike, a quick recap here. 47 laps to go. Already 10 cautions in this race. Danica Patrick, in her first Martinsville race, brought out the first caution. Was a lap down, actually worked her way back onto the lead lap. A 10-car wreck here on lap 180. Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved in the top 10 most of the day. So was Clint Boyer. Some of the damage, Brian Vickers as well, but they repaired their cars to get back into it. Carl Edwards not a threat in the Ford with a tire problem, and that created a caution. Mark Martin in the 11th car for Denny Hamlin, trouble in the pits, put him a lap down. Hamlin can only watch, missing the first race of his career. And moments ago in the pits, Brad Keselowski.
You can see the car, the nose of the car is on that line. I'm not sure the wheel is. The crew member is blocking my view. But if the wheel or the tire's on that line at all, it's a penalty, which means he's got to back up and get the car in the box. The official was right there on the scene and made the call. There isn't any way to go back on this because who would have known what the pit stop might have done anyway. So that's a ball and strike call, and if he got it wrong, that's a tough break for the team.
And we don't use the instant replay or blow it up in high definition to slow it down. No time for that, but a major pit road call going against the reigning champ Brad Keselowski, who has more top fives for this year than any other driver, but has yet to win, getting ready for a wild restart.
Yeah, watch how these restarts have gone. We've seen teammates working with each other. Jimmy Johnson possibly on the outside, Jeff Gordon on the inside, and Jeff lets Jimmy in. We're getting awful late in the race to see that again, but it's happened all day long.
And Mike, short track races in the last 9, we've had 9 different winners.
Well, we'll see if we get 10 today. The car that was coming at the time of caution was Jeff Gordon. Let's listen to Jimmy Johnson's team and Kyle Busch's team talking about the advancing 24.
What the hell happened to the 24 car? Been scanning him. He hasn't been talking, but he's moving forward. He's hauling them out.
Doing a good job, man. That was a good run. 24 is a little faster than us there at the end, but I believe with a small adjustment here, we're going to be okay.
Do you realize what's happening here? I mean, the 24, the 48, and the 15 are all right here together. Have you seen this? Have you seen this?
Ever? Yes, we have.
Now, listen, last year I said that the 24 and the 48 need to work together, just like we saw Matt Kenseth and Kyle Busch do. 48 or 24, one says, you go and get in front of me. Let's don't race each other off in the corner, because we could have the same calamity that we had here last year. The third place guy can really screw this deal up.
Here it was last April on the restart. Gordon, Johnson side by side. Boyer jumps to the bottom. All 3 of them go spinning. Ryan Newman wins.
If the 2 teammates had to work together, you go. One of them has to decide, you go, I'll go. And let's hold the other guys up. They wouldn't have had that situation.
But what Jeff Gordon said in the media center on Friday, he said what really made me mad, myself and Jimmy Johnson, we were on the old tires. Boyer had new tires. If he'd have just waited to the backstretch, he would have got us over there.
I'm just saying that they wanted to win 200 races. That's what it was for, and that would have been a good time for them to say, look, we got to work together here for the good of the company.
But it was a big win, and you had 2 talented drivers who on that day both refused to lose, and both did. Jeff Gordon team audio here.
All right, Jeff. Going to be about 45 to go right here. 45. You're the man, obviously. Just do what you can to get down. I think you can beat them.
Here we go again. Johnson, Gordon, Boyer with Kyle Busch, and it's a drag race to turn 1.
Kyle Busch at 18, he is fighting hard up in that second groove against Clint Boyer in that 15.
That's his only shot to advance.
You make a little short-term gain, but you just can't hold it on that outside.
Can he get in line in fourth? No, Casey Kane there. They may have touched.
They did touch. It may have cut the left rear tire down on that 18 too, because they hit pretty hard. Or damaged that tire.
To go. Biffle, Stewart working the outside. A knot of traffic back there. Still a lot of jostling in these first couple of laps after the restart.
Well, there's a man back there with Greg Biffle in that 16. Brad Keselowski in that 2. He is a man on a mission right now.
And rightfully so, Larry. I think he lost a lot of spots there on that call in the pits.
Whoa. The first 3 drivers each just ran their fastest lap of the race.
Jimmy Johnson's a tick quicker than the rest of them by about a 10. I think this is a perfect distance of run for Jimmy Johnson. And I think it's exactly wrong for Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon, after about 30, 40 laps, really starts to pick it up and has a little bit better car. But Jimmy's too good on this short run.
Oh, the driver that sat on the outside of the front row, Marcus Ambrose, in that 9 car, really fell back. Really been fighting that race car. He's now cracked the top 10 in 10th position.
And Larry, he's been bounced around like a basketball. People have been into him. He's been into people all day long, but here he is, top 10.
Behind him, Burton, Stewart, then Edwards side by side with his teammate Biffle taking the spot. Then Mark Martin, Earnhardt, and Danica Patrick. Third place, second place.
I got to tell you, these 2 guys, as we well know, they do have a history. And I know one thing, Clint Boyer won't back down.
And Kyle Busch, he's going to try to take advantage.
Turn 4, Junior around.
Guess who did it?
No caution, get ready here.
Yellow's out.
Caution's out. That's the 55 car for you.
Junior's just, things have just gone all wrong for Junior.
Well, a couple of things have just happened as this gets really interesting in the final 40 laps. Clint Boyer, Jeff Gordon fighting for second place. Little bump.
Jeff
room there.
No, Jeff gave him plenty of room.
There we are.
Yeah, he gave him plenty of room, and Clint made the move. But let's see what happened back here. When I looked up, Danica was in the mix here. Let's see who hit who.
I believe this is a 3-person dust-up. Vickers in the back of the 10.
Yeah, he shoved
into the side of the 88.
Right, he shoved Danica into Dale Jr.
Still inside. Tires inside. You got hit by the 55. Hang on, no caution. Get ready here.
You know what Brian Vickers gets out of all this? The free pass.
Yeah. You know what else? Dale Jr. is not real happy with Jimmy Johnson either. Because Jimmy Johnson could have sat there and waited for Dale Jr. to get fired and then not gone a lap down.
So Junior's now 2 laps down according to scoring.
The track was blocked because of the 88. Right. They had to come to a stop. Jimmy went on by went up on the apron and went by, and that left Junior sitting in the track. And by the time he got cranked, they'd already passed him.
Got a few drivers that were back in the pack, like Brad Keselowski, Marcus Ambrose, Carl Edwards, Paul Menard. They're going to take advantage, come to pit road and get 4 fresh tires.
I got to think Rick Hendrick's staying there. I've seen this before. Watch what I'm talking about here, guys. You watch it. Here comes Jimmy, so they got to stop. The 88 is stalled in the racetrack, so forget reasonable speed. Dale Jr. starts to back up. Jimmy could have just waited for him to get going, and Junior wouldn't have lost a lap.
All the other drivers did.
Just saying.
Ambrose in and out along with Edwards and Keselowski. Casey Mears on pit road with Bobby Labonte, and now Regan Smith. So we'll go side by side with 32 laps to go and lots more left to unfold.
Yeah.
Now
He's better off to be third now.
You can't dilly around, though.
Getting ready for a restart in Martinsville, Virginia. It's 1 lap away. Jimmy Johnson has lane choice. He is the race leader. Clint Boyer takes what's left, which is the outside. That puts Johnson and his Hendrick teammate Jeff Gordon nose to tail for the restart. Boyer will have fellow Toyota driver Kyle Busch behind him for the restart in 1 lap. Here's Clint Boyer's team.
Actually didn't really mean to hit him. He was just parking in the center, but oh well, what do you do?
I know what you do. You go hard. You go hard to go home now, boys. And you know what? This is going to, Jeff Gordon is going to see how tempting it is to go 3 wide into turn 1 on this restart.
Like Boyer did to him.
Like he did last year.
In last year's race.
I think just to watch that driver up there in 4th, Kyle Busch, in that 18 car. He knows the time's running out as well.
Brad Keselowski pitted from 9th, came out 16th. Here we go. Johnson on the brake, half a car length ahead of Boyer, who dives it hard into turn number 1. And he has room to get in line because Jeff Gordon did not get quite as good a restart.
No, Jeff couldn't get back to the gas, and that opened the door for Boyer to get the inside. I'm sure Jimmy Johnson wishes that hadn't happened.
Talked about Kyle Busch, though, fighting hard to try to get down on that 3rd spot.
He might be able to roll the center here if he can get a bite up off the corner. He might be able to drag race down the back and get him, but nope, ain't gonna happen.
Casey Kane 5th, and here comes Harvick.
Excuse me, Mike, it's interesting to watch this 24 car. We know how fast he was on the long run. That's out the window now. He's going to have to drive that thing with his heart, just digging every inch because he's tight on the initial get-go.
He doesn't have much corner to work with because Kyle Busch is right there alongside, and now Gordon clears him.
Boy, Kyle Busch tried to get down, but Casey Kane shut the door on the 5 car with him.
And Kane really, and he's going to lose it off the corner here, though, Larry, because he got back in the gas, got a little bit loose up off the corner. Great move getting into 3, though, for Casey Kane. Kevin Harvick's there, Matt Kenseth, and Jamie McMurray.
Further back, Tony Stewart on the outside of Ambrose and Keselowski. They're battling just outside the top 10. It's the first side-by-side battle there.
Look like bumper cars all back through the field. They all bang in, you know, hit somebody in the back end, hit somebody in the back end.
At 100 miles an hour plus.
And Jimmy Johnson just ran the fastest lap that he's run in this race. 475 laps into it.
Mark Martin inside of Stewart. He's looking to get in line in front of Carl Edwards. Maybe?
Maybe.
No.
Yes.
Johnson, Boyer, Gordon. And Jimmy made quick work.
Biffle just gave Jeff Burton a shot getting off into turn 3 and took that spot away from him, and Ambrose is following.
I don't know if Jeff Burton has any eye teeth or not, but if he did, he just knocked them out.
And from the outside, he's got no way to retaliate. Can he get in line? Nope. Now he can.
He was afraid to cut down.
Finally did in front of Carl Edwards.
You know, not far behind that, Danica Patrick is trying to take the 15th position away from her owner, Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart, 3-time winner here at Martinsville.
Here she goes.
The race for 16th place. And now, time for our sprint. 20 to go. The Gibbs and Hendrick cars have led 478 laps today out of 480. They've won 17 of the last 22 here. Look at Jimmy Johnson, how many laps he's led. 325, the rest of the field, very little. And Clint Boyer ran up front, drifted back, and now has clawed his way back to 2nd place. That's our sprint, 20 to go.
Well, the 2 cars leading the race right now, Jimmy Johnson, he set a track record, was fast in all the practices. The guy that was the fastest in all of our practices, the number 1 guy, was Clint Boyer. So those are the 2 best cars here all weekend long, running 1st and 2nd.
Inside of 18 laps, Johnson not pulling away, but with a solid advantage, 9/10 of a second.
They got off a little bit. The 48 did there in one run and fell back a little bit. But boy, I don't know what Chad did to the car on that last, when he said we can fix it, but they sure did.
And he was pretty confident it would fix it. Looks like to me his confidence paid off.
There's a great list of Martinsville all-time winners in what's now the Sprint Cup Series. Jimmy Johnson trying to break that three-way tie behind Richard Petty and Darrell Waltrip.
Well, you see Richard Petty, Darrell Waltrip, Rusty Wallace, all NASCAR Hall of Famers.
And we're looking at one right now, driving that 48 car.
Yes, sir.
Jeff Gordon closing just a little bit on Clint Boyer. With 15 to go, at this rate, he should be able to catch the second-place car.
Quite honestly, Larry, I don't know that if Jimmy Johnson continues on the pace he's on over the next 3 or 4 years.
Turn one.
Trouble in turn one.
A flame is Kurt Busch after a hard hit with the turn one wall.
Boy, they need to get over there.
You talk about bad days gone worse. Kurt Busch has had one.
He had the presence of mind, though, to hit that fire extinguisher that has a nozzle out under the hood, and you could see it extinguish it.
Pretty hard lick, looks like. He's a little stunned there.
Caution flag out with 14 to go. 12th one of the day. Lap 486. Former champion. Oh,
wow.
My goodness.
That is quite a fire underneath the hood of that 78 car.
And remember, that's a carbon fiber hood, so...
But Darrell, that looks like oil lines, fuel lines. That looks like everything.
Oh, yeah. You see brake pad flying out the front up there. I mean, the whole right side of the car is destroyed.
But you'll see him hit that fire extinguisher nozzle, and it will put that fire right out. And in the same time, he was trying to get out of the car.
Been a tough day for the little 78 team. It's got all
you
the
look
cars.
at that and you understand why Kevin Harvick wants his young son to take up golf.
Good
You
point.
see, he's almost getting ready to get out of the car. He's got the window net down, but he hit the nozzle right there, put that fire right out.
Eric Almirola will get the free pass from this caution, which has now turned to a red flag. The field is halted on the front straightaway with 13 laps to go. There is a lane open at the bottom of the racetrack, but to give the safety workers plenty of room to work at the scene and get there quickly, the red flag comes out.
There's a lot of wounded warriors out there, but we have 39 drivers out there on the racetrack right now.
You know, I always think about Junior Johnson when we would have to stop the engines. They've been running all day. They've been, you know, at engine temperature all day long. Junior would always holler at me and say, spin the engine over, spin the engine over. Because when that engine stops and the valves are all, some of them are hanging down and they're cooling, some are cooling more than others. And Junior always wanted me to spin the engine to keep to get the valves to move up and down in the heads to keep from popping the valve off.
Smart man.
He was.
Brian Patty, Clint Boyer's crew chief, Alan Gustafson, Jeff Gordon's crew chief.
13 laps to go in Martinsville, and we're just 6 days away from Texas.
Next week, we race under the Saturday Night Lights in Texas, where I brought home my first win.
How about this kid? Checkered flag, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Everything is bigger in the Lone Star State, and getting a win there will be huge. You don't want to miss this. It'll be all right here on Fox.
Saturday night under the lights, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. NASCAR on Fox, Texas style.
Let me see if I can get my buddy here. Hey, Clint Boyer, you got a copy on DW? He's probably taking a nap, knowing him. Hey, Clint, it's DW. You got a copy here, bud?
Yeah, I got you.
Remember what I asked you at the beginning of this race? Did you have any memories from last year? Things sure have shaped out to be very similar, huh?
You boys ought to have plenty to talk about now.
I just wanted to wake you up. I told him, I said, I'm in Boyers and they're taking a little nap right now. Nothing really going on, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna meet in the middle of the sandwich right here. We've got two, team cars. I'd say I got into the 24, and obviously everybody would think that that was on purpose, but he, I don't know, he was washing up real bad in the center, and I was rolling the center good. I really didn't mean to get into him, but I guess I got around him. Gonna get interesting, I'd say that.
Can you hang on the outside with that 48, or is that going to be your disadvantage?
Well, I'm afraid it's going to be my disadvantage. I'm sure as hell going to try, but we'll just have to see what happens. Just have to get a good jump on him, a little bit better than I did last time. If I can do a little bit better job with that, who knows? Maybe I can pin him down and get me a clock.
All right, buddy. Thanks for talking to us. Finish this thing off.
Now at turn 2, the fluids that came out of Kurt Busch's car had to be covered up and dried up, and now they're going to try to sweep them up, but still could be a little slippery getting through there.
I think it's
first lap or two.
Yeah, I don't think it's too bad.
Another look. Now Kurt Busch has been evaluated at the infield care center and released. He is okay, but Darrell, that car was aflame before it ever got down and into the wall.
It never slowed down, almost like it lost brakes. That when you see the car come into the corner, he's out against the wall, and the car's not slowing down at all.
You know, Darrell, one thing that Clint Boyer said right there at the end, I want to get me one of those clocks. You never hear a driver say, I'm going to get me a Dover trophy or a Pocono trophy, but they talk about that clock you get for winning here at Martinsville.
Yeah, that thing is special, man. I mean, they've been doing it for a long time, and it reminds you. It reminds you on every hour when you have one.
You know, throughout sport, there are just special tokens of accomplishment. The Stanley Cup for the hockey championship in the NHL, the Lombardi Trophy of the National Football League, the Heisman Trophy for the top college football player, the green jacket to the winner of the Masters. And in Martinsville, since 1964, Ridgeway Clocks, in conjunction with track owner Clay Earls, would present a grandfather clock to the winner. Fred Lorenzen got the first one here in September '64, winning the Old Dominion 500, and that started a tradition that continues to this day. Jeff Gordon has 7. Jimmy Johnson has 7. Darrell, you've got a stack of them. So does Richard Petty. How do you keep them all wound?
Well, you don't. You give them away. You give to. That's one of the things that I know I did with my. Rick Hendrick has one. My mom has one. You just give them away after a period of time. But the thing that makes them special is when you have a trophy case, and you can put trophies on a shelf. That has a space of all of its own. And that makes it really special.
But aside from the Harley Earl Trophy to the winner of the Daytona 500, is there a single event trophy in this sport more meaningful than one of those grandfather clocks?
Not at all, Mike. And we used to call this the Daytona 500 of short tracks.
Yes.
When you came here, Clay Earls, this race paid $50,000, not contingency money, $50,000 to win. That's what made this race so important to win, because back in the day that was a lot of money. Yeah. You think about Daytona only paid $150 probably at the time. You'd come here and run for that kind of money with the clock. Pretty special.
13 laps to go. We listened in on Team 48 in first place.
What do you think, Jimmy? We're probably going to have about 10 laps to go. You get an opinion one way or the other, what you want to do?
Clearly, it depends what they do behind me. I feel like we've got them covered. But if we're the only one on old tires, clearly we got a problem.
So they roll off behind the pace car. The pits will open. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Steve Burns with Kurt Busch.
Yeah, back at his transporter, Mike. And Kurt, just a scary-looking thing we saw there on the racetrack. What in the world happened to your car?
Something happened with the brakes. The pedal felt spongy going into 3 and 4. And I gave it a courtesy pump, and it came to. Going down the front straightaway, I gave it another courtesy pump, went straight to the floor. So something failed with the brakes. I just turned it to the right and fenced it instead of driving head on into the fence. But I don't know, we had a fuel pump issue earlier, had a brake issue now. Running 38th, 30 laps down, nothing much was going on. So I guess it's better for that to happen now than us running top 5 and have a brake failure. But these guys work really hard on this Furniture Row Chevy, and it's just tough to have a couple of bad things happen like this, and we've just been battling from behind all year, and we'll keep battling. I'm not giving up.
We're glad you're okay.
Thanks a lot.
Pretty smart, Darrell, that he turned that thing right, knowing he had no brakes rather than just drive off in there and hit the wall in the corner.
When I saw the thing at the speed it entered turn one, I said, and I didn't see any oil or anything. I thought probably it was a brake fluid. And then I saw one of the brake pads go flying out after he got in the wall, so he definitely had something happen there.
Eric Almirola getting the free pass. Now let's go back to the Danica Patrick Dale Jr. spin. Patrick drove in the Nationwide Series for Earnhardt last year. But here, with an assist from Brian Vickers, she gets in the back of Junior and more contact. And right there, Vickers gets in the back of her. She gets into the side of Junior. And around he goes, Matt.
Mike, shortly after that incident, through the spotters, Dale Earnhardt Jr. passed along a message to Danica Patrick. No harm, no foul. He did not blame her for that incident. And, you know, when I was at driver intros, Keselowski and Harvick were joking around about their nightmarish first time here at Martinsville and how it left such an impact on them. And what a job Danica Patrick has done, DW, in her first time here. Even Stewart thought it was going to be an exciting day. And currently 16th.
Yeah, that wasn't her fault that Junior got spun out. The 55 got into her. The 43 got into him. They bottlenecked all up.
Pit stops. Harvick comes in, leading Kenseth, Burton, Carl Edwards, and Casey Mears, Matt.
And a lot of debate back and forth about Kyle Busch also thought about it, but they waved off. Meanwhile, the 20, they're going to take on 4 tires as well as the 29 of Harvick. They feel like that's their last shot to see if they have a chance to walk out of here with a clock.
Well, I don't think that's going to affect Jimmy Johnson, Clint Boyer, Jeff Gordon, or Kyle Busch, any of those. But who hated to really see that, I think, were drivers that did stay out, like Danica Patrick, like Mark Martin, Marcus Ambrose. That's the ones that not going to want to see those fresh tires in the rearview mirror.
Fox Sports is proud to partner with Johns Hopkins Medicine, one of this year's Fox Sports Supports charities. Johns Hopkins is at the forefront of groundbreaking research into autoimmune disorders like multiple sclerosis and lupus. Join us in the fight against autoimmune diseases and donate now by visiting hopkinsmedicine.org/Fox.
Larry, there's a break point there. Anytime you come late, tend to go on a track like this, there's a break point in there where it makes sense to come in, but it makes just as good a sense to stay out.
Yes.
You know, what are you going to gain? You don't really know when you come and get tires. You might sneak up there and get a few cars that you wouldn't have got otherwise.
10 to go. And the first 11, make that 10 drivers stayed out. They'll get 1 to go next time by. And we'll settle this.
Find a way right here, man. Find a way.
Getting ready to settle it at Martinsville. Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, Darrell Waltrip with you. We talked it halfway, Darrell, and I remember saying nothing matters till the last restart. Here we go.
Yeah, and this is when you really have to really take a deep breath. Don't spin the tires. You got to get a perfect restart. If Jimmy Johnson does, he'll be hard to beat. But that's a big if. With the cambered rear end and the tires laying over and they're dirty, watch this restart.
Yeah, Clint Boyer told you, it has to happen in that first half mile.
And it's about to. Johnson elects the inside. Clint Boyer alongside. And Jimmy Johnson's teammate, Jeff Gordon, right behind. Boyer will have Kyle Busch behind him. In row 3, another Hendrick car on the outside, Casey Kane with Jamie McMurray. In row 4, 2 Fords, Brad Keselowski and Greg Biffle. Then outside pole sitter Marcus Ambrose with Mark Martin. Then Danica Patrick with Bobby Labonte. Patrick up to 11th, the highest she's been all day.
And we're talking like we're going to have 8 laps of green flag racing. I wouldn't bank on that.
Oh, Havoc is getting ready to break loose.
Green flag. Good, clean restart.
You heard Boyer say maybe I can stay down on him and get a break up off the corner. Not going to happen. I suggest you fall in line right there, brother, and then race him down into 3.
And that he will do.
Meanwhile, Kyle Busch stays to the outside.
Well, we saw Kyle try this the last time. You can get a little headway out there, but it's hard to complete the pass.
Johnson, Boyer, Gordon. Here comes Kane for for fourth place.
Yeah, Casey Kane took advantage of that.
Castle and Reagan dusted it up in turn one, but they kept going after major contact.
And how about Brad Keselowski in that 2 car fighting his way back to 6th after the problem he had on pit road not that many laps ago?
Got a pretty good race car. Don't know that he can get by Kyle Busch, but he's got a good car. He might sneak under him if he gets a break.
Keselowski 6th.
He has fresher tires than those guys in front of him.
Yes, he does.
The next car on fresh tires is Ambrose in the number 9.
I think right now Jimmy Johnson, being the pro that he is, just don't make any mistakes. Don't overdrive the turn. Hit your marks, and you're good to go. Boyer, on the other hand, he's got to drive over his head to get to Jimmy.
Harvick and Bobby Labonte got together. That's just minor contact. 5 to go.
That 48 car, Larry, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just on a rail. It rolls the center of that corner right around that yellow curve. Smooth as silk.
I don't know that I've ever seen it bobble all day long.
Keselowski gave a bumper to Kyle Busch. Remember, Brad's on fresher tires. He's looking to the low side. Kyle's not going to give him any room down there. It's Kyle or the curb if Keselowski wants to pass.
So he only got about 2.5 laps to do it now.
I think Keselowski, he'd like to get by Kyle, but he's not going to jeopardize where he is to make that pass.
2 to go.
That's got to be killing Boyer. Man, I was so close to getting me one of those clocks.
Points or pride? How close can you get? Can Keselowski get into the top 5? He's up against the bumper of Busch again at the white flag.
Going to make a dive, but I don't think it's going to work.
Back straightaway.
There he goes. Here he goes. He's going to make a run on him right here.
Keselowski to the inside. Here comes Jimmy Johnson. Wins 62. 5th place, side by side. Too close to call.
Kyle got him, I think, by like an inch.
It shows 6/1000 of a second.
And, wow, Brian Vickers goes spinning in turn 1 after the checkered flag.
I'm not so sure that either Kevin Harvick or Danica Patrick didn't get Brian Vickers.
Harvick.
One of the two.
Did you know that Danica finished 12th?
And ran all the laps.
For all the naysayers that said that girl can't drive on a short track, first time ever here, top 12 finish. How about that? Here's a look at it.
Whoa. Well, these guys were getting, and gals were getting very aggressive.
Well, and Harvick and Kenseth, they had fresh tires.
Now watch this. I think I see where the, yeah. Harv said, hey, bud, save me a little room next time.
Well, we said they'd start with their tempers and fenders intact. They wouldn't finish that way.
That's right. I thought this was going to get ugly right here. Brad had a little bit of a run on Kyle. Kyle knew better than to cut in front of him right there. Gave him the bottom. And then they drag race up off the turn 4 here. And look how close this is.
Great racing. 6 1/1000ths is the difference. It's about the width of a splitter right there.
Splitting hairs right there.
Jimmy Johnson with his 2nd win of 2013 burns down the house with his 8th Martinsville victory.
Back live in Martinsville, Virginia, the Sprint post-race show. There's your podium finish. A couple of 7-time winners. Well, now Jimmy's an 8-time winner. Clint Boyer finishing between the 2 Hendrick drivers. Starting on the pole, Jimmy Johnson never was lower than 4th in this race. Led the most laps he's ever led in a race. 346. His 4th win. His last 10 races, he kept Clint Boyer from victory lane, and our Matt Yoakum is with Clint Boyer.
Almost a carbon copy to last year, Chris. When you think about that final restart, same top 3 guys as last year. Describe at that point, because you were stuck on the outside, did you think you had any chance still?
Well, last year I had the upper hand with tires, and it just didn't work out. That time I was on the outside, and definitely was the opposite of that. But I'm just proud of RK, Motors Toyota. The guys did a good job. Brian Patty, everybody on this number 15 car did a good job bringing a fast car. It's just disappointing I think she was just tore up too bad. You know, we was lucky to get back up where we were, made some good adjustments, but you know, all in all, it was a good day. I'd like, you know, 5-hour peak, AAA. Everybody that's a part of this car is just, you know, it's a good program, good group of guys. Just wish I'd have had that clock.
Thank you. Steve?
Matt, with Danica Patrick, hey, great finish, 12th place run, pretty eventful end of the race. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, you know, never being to Martinsville before, I didn't know what to expect, and all I knew is it was going to be a little bit crazy, and the bumping and banging sure gets going. And you know, I tried to guard the inside right there at the end, and Vickers gave me a bump, and you know, I get it. I mean, I was trying to defend and hold my position, so we still came away with a 12th place finish. So you know, it was good to do that for GoDaddy. Obviously, Hendrick Endurance was very strong today. I felt like I made a lot of passes, so. Yeah, I wonder if I made the most. I feel like I just passed all day, but you know, I'm sure a lot of people do that at a short track. So nice day for us. It was nice to have a good weekend. We've had quite a few bad ones since Daytona, so we'll take this and get rolling into the summer because we don't have a break until July.
See you in Texas. Nicely done. Matt?
Steve, impressive day for Jeff Gordon. I lost count how many changes your team made to that car, but then at the end, describe that final restart.
Well, we just didn't need those cautions there at the end. You know, I made a mistake on pit road, got us way behind, but what an incredible effort from this Drive to Hunger Chevrolet team. They had good pit stops, and then they also made great adjustments, Al and the guys, and we were real tight there at the middle part of the race, and then, boy, that thing just took off, and on the long run, I felt like we had the best car, but you know those cautions are going to come out there. We tried to free it up. We just didn't quite free it up enough, so I was just trying to get the front end to cut, and I knew that we just didn't quite have it. We just needed more laps there at the end. Congratulations to Jimmy, though. You know, I mean, yes, he's so impressive here, but the thing that's impressed me the most is those darn poles. I mean, where did that come from? He used to at least give us a shot when he'd qualify like 15th. So when those guys get that #1 pit stall, they're almost impossible to beat. And it was a lot of fun. We needed that 3rd place finish. So very proud of this team. Don't forget to text HUNGER to 50555.
Impressive top 3 today here at Martinsville. Chris?
All right, thank you, Matt. So Jimmy Johnson, old 5-time the dominator today for Hendrick Motorsports. 8th win here, and our Chris Devota's down there in victory lane.
For the 8th time, Jimmy Johnson wins at Martinsville. It is a bath down here in victory lane. Every win has a story. You have a hungry guy behind you in Clint Boyer. Thank you very much. Yes, I need this badly, huh? What was the story of this win?
It was just a long-fought day. I mean, Martinsville, you know, it stays the same over the years, and you just have to dig in and get into a rhythm, drive your own race, and see how things unfold at the end and kind of what's going to happen. Fortunately, we didn't have any craziness with 2 tires or 4 tires at the end, and I feel like the fastest car won the race. So it was a very standard Martinsville race, although I thought some guys might peel off and take tires. So just a hard race. You know, this racetrack is tough to get around, but we have a great notebook, and I got to thank Chad Knaus and all my guys for their dedication and hard work. Everybody back at home at HMS. I want to encourage everybody to go to Lowe's tomorrow. If you didn't go today already, buy some stuff. It's springtime, and life is good. 2 wins this year.
Well, you said, I mean, it's a new car, different tire, but you said when you're good at a track, something just sticks. You knew Clint Boyer, Jeff Gordon were hungry to win here. Hungrier possibly than you because it hasn't happened as recently for them. So how were you able to hold them off?
I think the last stop or 2, we really got our car adjusted right and got some clean air and got track position, which was very important. For a period of time there, I thought Matt Kenseth may win this thing, and he hates this racetrack. I couldn't believe he ran that well here today, so I got to give him a hard time about that. But you know, just as the day wore on and we got to the end, flawless on pit road, did my job, you know, on the racetrack to maintain track position, and we could control the race at that point. You know, being stuck in that outside lane on a restart would have really been the death of whoever was out there. So fortunately, we had control of the race late and held off a lot of hard-charging guys.
When it was all said and done, the hungriest today was Jimmy Johnson, an 8-time winner at Martinsville.
Unbelievable. Thank you.
And for Rick Hendrick, always special meaning in Martinsville. First victory ever came here, and of course, Rick Hendrick has now 212 wins for Hendrick Motorsports. More in a moment. Batting 500 at Martinsville in his last 14 races here. He has won 7 times. Johnson with his 2nd win this season, so the first repeat winner.
Jeff Gordon, his first top 5 finish of the season, finishing 3rd. Brad Keselowski had to battle to finish 6th.
Yeah, pit road penalty put him in the back, but he charged up into the top 10. See, Marcus Ambrose started up front, ran really well all day long.
And Danica Patrick, we heard from her finishing 12th. More with Kevin Harvick and what happened late and even after the race. Matt Kenseth, who led with Joe Gibbs Racing, dominated through a portion. Dale Earnhardt Jr. out of the top 10 for the first time this year.
Yeah, that car did not handle the way Dale Jr. needed it to all day long. He was hit and spun and just had a tough day.
Ken Schrader got into it with Danica Patrick early, which brought out the first caution, but Danica made up some ground. Kurt Busch saw the car catch fire. The incident I was talking about, Michael, explain with what's going on here with Brian Vickers and Kevin Harvick.
Well, they're racing for the 11th spot. Harvick got 13th. Danica's on the outside, and evidently Harvick did not like the way that Vickers raced Danica, so when they got to the checker flag and passed it, he just spun him out to show him that he didn't appreciate that.
Afterwards, even after that.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it. Short track racing, we talked about emotion. We talked about blocking and bumping.
They were so well behaved all afternoon. Tony Stewart, Joey Logano. So now we have checking the points after 6 races of the 2013 season. Our 4th different change at the top. And Jimmy Johnson comes back up to lead Brad Keselowski and Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, and you look at Paul Menard down there. He has done an amazing job of hanging in that top 10. Kenseth had the crash at Bristol, but now is still inside the top 10. So a lot of people are starting to think about the chase, getting them some points and making themselves an opportunity to make the chase.
Denny Hamlin, 18th at 11 cars we were talking about with Mark Martin in that ride. Denny hopes to make it back in Richmond. Let's check in with Matt Yoder.
Another one of those exciting finishes at Martinsville, and a lot of debate at one point, Kyle, under that last caution, whether to pit for tires or not. Still think you made the right call?
Yeah, I don't know where anybody that came finished, you know, but we just getting stuck on the outside lane on restarts just kills you. But, you know, we fought hard up there and tried to do what we could, and, you know, just had to fade gracefully, I guess you'd call it. But, you know, M&M's guys did a great job today and gave me a really good car. And, you know, we keep finishing top 5 here all the time, but it'd sure be nice to figure out some sort of secret that can get us into victory lane here. It'd be nice to bring home a grandfather clock, but not this week.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yep.
56 laps, and Jimmy has his 8. Jimmy says he has all 7 of the previous grandfather clocks, and they chime at different times, just reminding him of how good he is here. The clock on the wall almost says that's all for us. We have more from Martinsville in just a moment.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our loyal fans for your continued support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.